What's up, Reef Builders? I'm here today, a new man. I've embraced the Alpha Bro Reefer lifestyle. I've hit the gym. I've got my bulk. I've got my caffeine. And I've got some new guests on to talk about my new and enlightened point of view. Welcome, Ben Johnson. Richard Ross, he's asleep. His old man energy has taken over. He decided to take a nap. We will periodically attempt to contact him throughout this podcast and get him on. But for now, it's Ben and I. Ben's got some friends, as you can see. So Ben, to open this up, you've been doing this for like 20, 25 years. You have a ton of experience in the hobby, in the industry, on the professional side. From what you have seen, what is the most difficult problem to solve?
The most difficult problem to solve from my perspective?
Yeah.
Son, it's not
a bird that can't fly.
Okay, my son found a bird and he just brought it in here.
It
Okay,
can't
perfect.
fly.
all right. It's a pigeon. Good job, son. I'm proud of you.
No,
He's such a good father.
anything with this?
Not me and not now because I'm recording and I'm live. So now is not the time to rehab pigeons.
You've got a project afterwards.
Yeah, that was rad. Okay, so from my perspective, it would be talking to new clients and getting them to, getting them to go with what I'm going with, and to honestly, as a professional aquarist, I need people to take a look at what I do and decide whether to use me or not, and then I need them to take a step back and not be involved with the aquarium, and that can be difficult. But as regards to aquariums itself, not that, there's a lot of people watching this that have been doing this for a long time, on many different levels. So I'm definitely not saying that, reef tanks are easy. That's not the case. But, it's what I do for a living, keeping aquariums in line, doing what I want. But that as a whole is tricky, again, it's what I do for a living. So, I have to do it in many different places, locations, types of aquariums and setups and quandaries and stuff like that. But keeping a reef tank in line, doing what you want it to do.
So when you go into a new client, do you kind of have the same tools that you tend to use in your tool belt? Or do you have like a lot of different things you utilize? Like, do you go into a tank and you're like, okay, I'm going to do calc, I'm going to do the light schedule like this, or do you tailor it to that specific scenario?
It's funny because we all talk about this, and if as a business, if I could just copy paste a very successful reef tank and just copy paste that, it just doesn't work that way. And it's, maybe over time we can figure out why that is, but it's just so insane because it's just so tricky to copy paste, whether it's the building. Maybe the building does something with the pH, maybe the client messes with the tank sometimes and doesn't tell you about it. Maybe someone sprays something somewhere, and it's just super weird. You could use the same type of skimmer, the same type of pump, the same type of water, the same type of rock, the same type of everything. And it's just, you can't just copy paste everything. So everything gets taken, as its own, every scenario. I start with the basics of what I do. Then you sort of run into problems. You see where you might need to tailor, just because this system over here has a algal turf scrubber doesn't mean that this other one even needs it. And maybe this tank over here, try as I might with kalkwasser, can't stabilize the pH. So then I add in a carbon scrubber on this one, where this tank over here didn't need it. And this tank is, because all these tanks are different, where things are located, how many people are in the building, so on and so forth. So you have to be MacGyver, and you have to be, you have to bend with the flow of whatever the tank is giving you.
So, okay. So given that you obviously have a lot of experience and you have to apply different tools and different circumstances, what do you think about all of these top-down approaches that are being advocated by a lot of the big companies? Like, here's the worldwide corals, or TSA or whatever light schedule. Apply this to every system, or here's the X method. Do you think that's bullshit?
I don't think it's bullshit, but what works for one person or system it doesn't mean it's going to work great for every other system. Just because what I told you, there's so many variables. I also am going to squint at any method or liquid or type or marketing or advice that's like, oh, if you have a reef tank, just do this and everything will work out fine. It's just not like that. Like if you're talking about, like, for some reason I always harp on moonshine method, and no offense to anyone that uses it. I don't know. I just always use that as like all the moonshiners, because I see people with great results on it. And let me backtrack a little bit, because I would want the viewers to also know and to understand that the way I'm going to tackle a system, maintaining it, even installing it, everything about it, as someone who sees this tank once a week or every other week and is the only person that puts hands on it except for feeding, those practices, those installation methods, the things that I do are not necessarily translatable to a home hobbyist, just much like the things that they would do. Like I could give for instance, me personally, as far as a maintenance client goes, I'm not big on using like a Trident, like an Apex Trident, because it would be a great way to track the alkalinity. And I know there's professionals out there watching this that are like, oh, I use them. And that's great. Everyone has their own aptitude and their own thing that they're doing. But I can't, my time is money, and I can't go there and fiddle fart with something that, I'm spending 30 minutes on trying to redo the tubes on the Trident, and I haven't even touched their aquarium. You've got to recognize that there's things that are out there in this industry that are like a more hobbyist type thing, where there's no time limit to what you're doing there or anything like that. And I've got to get in there in a relatively decent amount of time, where I've come to an agreement about how much I'm charging, and I've got to get in there, do my thing, and get out. And there's some pieces of equipment and types of methods and stuff like that just don't translate well to that.
So Josh asked a pretty good question in regards to that. Can't you bill for that? I'm assuming that maybe you just have so many clients that you don't have enough time to mess with that, and you've got to jump from person to person. Is that the instance, or what's that for you?
You can, for sure, in theory. In practice, this is going to sound wrong, but it's just true. I've been doing this for a long time. I charge a lot for my area. My clients like predictability. And when my billable time is sort of expensive, I personally have not found that I could sit there and say, hey, instead of charging you $400, I'm going to charge you $600 today. That's a whole conversation, hey, we need to talk about this before you do this. I can't just have this bill be blah, blah, blah. So in theory, that sounds great. In practice, go for it. There's probably some pros out there watching this that do that. But I have found I've been self-employed since 2004. I've found since that time that you can't have these on the spur conversations about how you're charging a whole lot more on any given time.
So this is more like an economic perspective of things, but in terms of, because you have that longevity in the industry, is most of your revenue come from long-term customers, or you just kind of see constant in and out, and as the hobby grows and fluctuates?
Well, and people that do what I do watching this will understand this too, because that's your goal, is to keep someone for a long time, obviously. Of course. I have clients that I've had for like 12 years, 10 years, 8 years, 6 years, stuff like that. My core clients. Now, all sorts of things happen in that amount of time. Bankruptcies, divorces, moving, disinterest, disasters, all that. So to hang on to a client for that long, like I can think of one of my best tanks out there, this 300-gallon aquarium that's in the office of a CEO of an oil company. I've had him for 12 years, almost 13 years. I put that picture up on Facebook not too long ago. I think you saw it and liked it. And I've been working on that sucker once a week for almost 13 years. But, it's in his office. And again, I'm talking about, in my line of business, like I said, I'm not going to go through the list again, but divorces and so on and so forth. And it's just tricky to keep a client for that long. I don't like one and dones because that's low. It's funny. The shorter term someone wants to use your services, really the more junky it is. If you're like, oh, can you clean up? And see, I clean freshwater and saltwater. Honestly, I'm a business. If it's in a glass box, I'll clean it. As long as you're okay, I'm dead serious. As long as you're okay with my hourly rate, I don't care if there's a turtle in there. I don't care if your child's in there. It doesn't matter. Like, I will clean what's in the glass box that we come to an agreement of. But, you'll get some freshwater type things like one and done. And I do not love those. And I have to be in the right mood, and they have to be close to another client for that. But, some people would be surprised because like, oh, you've been doing this for so long, you must do all big, giant, fancy aquariums. It's just not like that. And if you're a business, if it makes money, you've got to go get that money, So sometimes I've been doing this professionally since 1995. And as 2004 is my own business. I've found myself a week ago cleaning a 10-gallon aquarium with goldfish in it. They agreed to my price, which I felt was overpaying, but I don't say that. I say, here's my rate. Here's the type of work that I do. They look at that and cool, come over and clean this thing. And you want to pay that rate for cleaning goldfish? Let's get after it.
No problem with that at all. That's a lot easier than a reef tank.
A long time ago, I might have, but a long time ago when my rates were really low and I wasn't as sure as myself, I'd be cleaning some stupid aquarium and be like, why am I doing this? Is this a joke? Blah, blah, blah. And now I've gotten, my rates are up to where it's like, hey, I'm good. I'm happy. You're paying me to do this. I'm way overqualified to do this. And you're overpaying me. But you liked my work and you like me. And so, again, it has nothing to do with you swallow your pride if you're making a certain amount. And that, not to go on a diatribe, but that is why I charge what I charge. Because if I go out to your house or business and I'm cleaning an aquarium, I'm going to be happy doing it, period. End of story. I'm not going to be sitting there. Why did I agree to this? I'm above this, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm getting paid good to do this, and I'm gonna sit there and clean a 10-gallon goldfish tank with a smile on my face because I decided what I'm getting paid for it.
So in terms of the evolution of finding your financial or economic worth in that way, as you stated, like it used to be charged less. Was it oh shit?
Hello?
Sleeping Beauty.
Oh my God.
What a child.
What an entrance.
He's a blind chef baby.
Oh my God. Who do we have here?
You got to understand the people who don't know us, Reef Beef, Richard Ross and Ben Johnson. Visually, we like to keep it interesting.
Yeah, I decided let's embrace that tonight. That's I'm glad we all did it. Sometimes I don't see Rich dress up, but it seems he went all out for this.
I don't see that he dressed up at all. That's
he looks normal. You're right.
Oh, it's here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes.
Okay. All my settings are weird, so I'm just going to believe that you can see me.
We can see you perfectly fine.
You sort of sound like you're kidnapped in someone's trunk, but that's okay.
Because Ben, I'm wearing a mask.
Oh, you are. I thought you were a member of Slipknot or something.
He certainly looks like a Slipknot member. Korn, maybe.
Salem's like the Joe Rogan of the aquarium world.
Got a 10-gallon pink tip HG Holy Grail Micro Musa.
Got a
OG bounce,
bro.
Posted on Insta. Oversaturated though.
Whatever.
So now that Rich is here,
I'm wearing my Howie lab coat in honor of you.
It looks like a straight jacket.
What?
It looks like a straight jacket.
Well, I think that's what the Howie lab coat was designed to be.
Looks like a crooked jacket to me.
And
it's to keep you productive.
I had my plastic surgery done, and so we're all good.
Wonderful.
Good. Little scarring, but I've heard that'll clear away.
Am I interrupting? I'm going to take this off.
Yeah, you should probably leave.
Yeah, we can't hear you very well.
Let me get Rich.
It was great for the entrance, but it might not be practical unless you have a mic inside. Like
I'm
a dead
take off
mouse
my
helmet.
lamb hat.
Who is that asshole?
I don't know.
Some
baby,
prick dude. I don't know.
freaking baby.
Some guy who was asleep. Because
Yeah.
of time.
Richard, I tried to call you on the phone and I called that other Richard I bugged a long time ago.
You did not.
I go, Richard, wake up. And he goes, who is this? And I said, Ben. And he goes, Ben who? And I go, uh-oh, and hung up.
That's hilarious. Okay. Well, as long as you guys can hear me, I think we're on my laptop mic and my laptop camera. So I've got all this equipment that's doing nothing. So perfect.
It's great.
I'm sorry to interrupt. What's going on? And I let you finish with Ben and then talk to me.
Yeah.
All right.
I had a question I actually was curious about. So
You have the machine that goes bing, bing, and the most expensive machine in case the supervisor comes. Bing.
Remy needs to provide the bing. I'm sure he can. Remy, when we do a toast, like provide the bing.
Oh, see it. Oh, can we do this?
There it
We
is.
can't. Oh, see, I can't do that still. I haven't figured it out.
Reef Jesus.
What the hell was I asking?
Love.
Oh yeah.
You guys were talking.
So-
Ben was like, "Oh, I charge a lot of money, and I don't feel. Don't make this be the wrong way, but I
Yes.
do what I say. I am Reef. I'm the
That-
Reef man."
That's what it was. It was okay. So did you just have like an all of a sudden realization, and you woke up and you were like, Jesus, I got to charge more? Or was it like an incremental? You started charging more, and like you went up the
Man,
stairs.
it's a long road, and and you have to decide. Those are difficult business decisions because you have to decide all along the way. I think a long time ago I was like, well, I shouldn't give numbers, but I was like, oh, I charge this amount, and then you find yourself in an aquarium like when you feel the feeling of, man, why did I decide to do this? And you're in a situation that doesn't feel very awesome for you, that's a consideration. But you can't just start. You had to sort of charge, off of your experience, year in and year out, and then you get better at stuff. You gain more knowledge. You're creating better things. Every time someone contacts you and you get to do a new system or you rehab someone's system, you just get better and better, and things come more naturally. Oh, I better charge more. And sometimes you take over an account and you see someone else's paperwork. How much is, ABC charging? Oh, okay. If they're charging that, I'm going to charge this, and you go until you hit a ceiling. And then, you might be like, well, I'm worth such and such dollars an hour. And then everyone says no. And you're like, I'm probably charging too much,
That makes sense.
so you try to figure. But I would say after you've gained a ton of experience and you're good, and you take a hold of tanks that are already existing, just boom, turn them around, and you just do that day in and day out. You can get to a point where it's like, well, I'm sort of expensive, and a lot of people say no, but it's just, as long as you're putting enough money into the bank, you could just decide that you get to say no to a lot of things. But that's up to you.
That's interesting. Now that you both are here, the topic I wanted to talk about tonight, and why I dressed up as the Alpha Bro Reefer, as we call them.
Oh, yeah.
I think we should talk about experience versus like logic or critical thought. I feel like that's a big issue in the hobby right now, is a lot of people value experience over critical thought, and vice versa. Where is the balance in both of your opinions? How should we go forward? If something works for me or something works for my friend, should we not question it? Should we question it? Should we have too much skepticism? No skepticism? Where do we decide something works?
This
in
is
both of your
Richard's-
perspectives.
This is
I think
Rich-
it's yours too, Ben, because
Yeah.
you've got experience like we talked about. I set you up for it. You've
Richard
got all
wrote
this
the damn
experience and you use different tools. I'm taking this hat off. I'm done pretending to be someone I'm not. Coming out of my shell.
You're not
You
pretending.
baby.
So what do
And,
we think?
by the way, I said a bad word already, so I'm going to give
Raj.
Remy will tell me every
It's
bad
America.
word I say, I'll pay $20 to a charity. So
Yeah.
I owe $20 to a charity, and Remy has to pick it because I don't trust you guys.
They could go to my new blinds.
Yeah.
You're supporting blind people?
Yes, exactly.
Captive. That's why
Multiple, actually.
my captive blind people. I have blind people in my base.
Ben has now punted your question to me, and your question was skeptical thought versus experience. Is that
Yes.
a critical thought?
Where's the bright line? Can we synthesize them together? Did we say fuck it to both? I said a bad word. It's it's fine.
I owe another $20. I'll take them all this year.
There you go.
This stream. I think it's got to be both. There's got to be room for both. You know, Jake used to give me grief about being skeptical and dishing on anecdote, and I was like, I'm not dishing on anecdote. So I wrote a whole article about why anecdote is really good. So it's, you know, so when somebody tells you something, okay, there's a suite of people who I will ask questions to, who I will not question their answers.
Okay.
On certain non-overlapping magisteria. And if I don't know the person and don't have a track record of getting good information from them, I'm going to question them more. And I'm being tongue-in-cheek when I say I won't question them at all. You question everyone if it seems fishy to you. Sure. You have to leave room for experience, but you're going to have to get me to be excited about the advice that you're giving. You're going to have to give me some evidence for me to some reason why it worked, rather than just, you know, it made my tank look better, which is like the traditional response. But I don't think that's what you're asking about. I think you've got something specific in mind that you're asking about.
Well, not really. I mean, multiple things it could be, right? Now that you say that. But I guess, so you're saying a theoretical mechanism is sufficient in your mind. Like you don't need N of X in terms of people in the hobby that have done it. You filter it through like, this logically makes sense based on what I know from my knowledge, and they've deployed it, and now it maybe works, so we can assume X, Y, Z. Like, is that kind of where you're coming from?
Kind of. But because it's worse than I think we want it to be. We're never going to get an N of X unless you are keeping track of your fellow reef keepers and what they're doing, right? So you never really, I mean, and this is a big part of the problem, you know, with something like Vibrant, or even with Zeovit, you know, you get 50% of the people who say it worked, and then you get 50% of the people who say it didn't work. These are all anecdote because that's all we have. And then the people who liked whatever it was that they were talking about, they forget about all the people who said it didn't work. So you get into this weird place where we don't, you know, the emotional numbers, the emotional N that we have isn't really reflective of what the reality is. And that's the whole problem. The hobby is so based on this person reports, and this person says, and this person says, and this person says, and we're terrible witnesses to our own lives, and even worse at reporting them. So you have to have, that's why I'm such a jerk about, you know, you have to figure out what your philosophy, you see how I changed my word in the middle, what your philosophy about reef keeping is. What is your philosophy, and how does this fit into your philosophy? You can change that philosophy as time goes on, but if you can't just go tell me what to do, because every box of water is different.
What if we could?
A lot of people are super bad with the whole correlation causation thing as well.
Okay, yeah, I agree. That's true.
What if we could?
What if we could?
If this was a more of a paint by numbers situation, I think a lot more people would do it, and a lot fewer people would stay with it long term.
What if we just haven't got there yet, but now we can be there?
Well, then we're not there yet. Then, you know,
I think we are there though. Okay, so here's
we don't even know how many people are in the hobby.
That doesn't matter.
We don't have.
It doesn't matter.
But you want some other estimate of reality? You want some other number there? Okay, I'm misunderstanding.
I don't think we need to know.
I'm
total
sorry,
number
I'm
in
so
the hobby.
distracted by your guns that
yeah, you know, I've just been really carrying things here, you know, trying to.
That's a dumbbell.
Okay, where are we? What am I missing that we're already at this place?
Community science. What if we have N of 50, and we have 50 extremely diverse tanks kept with a variety of methods, and now we can generate what we can assume is reliable data to answer these questions? How
Then
is that not the path forward to utilize skepticism as fuel for action?
Well, it's going to depend on what the data is, because
Sure.
if you get it, we've had, what salt are you using, and then people come back and say what salt you're using, but I'm not sure if that's actually a useful metric. Is that useful information? So yeah, as the information gets more focused and more pointed and more about what we're actually doing, and more robust in its reporting and its deliciousness, we can rely on it more, just like with any other evidence. The better the evidence is, the more actionable it should become.
Sure. So that's my point is I think that you've highlighted what's happened for the last 20, 30 years, but I think now I see it as a divergence point, right? I think that this could practically lead to a semi-objective suggestion for what, like if we look theoretically, right? Like carbon dosing thing we're doing with aquabiomics.
Yeah.
Let's say we get clear trends, N of 50. We've got we can do an internal, like parent T test, right? Like it's great. It's not some BRS bullshit science. It's like, seems like a decent study. I mean, at that point, I feel like that is a suggestion that people could confidently make.
Sure. No, well,
70% of tanks had a positive outcome. Try it.
That's great. Well, yeah, but that's kind of what happens now. But if the reporting is better, if the clear trends are that bottled bacteria doesn't do anything, which we kind of feel like is kind of true anyway.
Yeah.
Great. We can put that one to bed. But I'm telling you, there will still be people who won't put it to bed. Right.
Sure.
The Vibrant is still sold.
Right.
Sure. Good point.
But the more robust I'm saying we have not yet had enough robust data and enough robust studies about what we actually do. Most everything we have is tangential and inferred from other studies, which has got, its problems. We've talked about
some reach. There's a lot of reach.
There's a lot of reach. Yeah.
But also, unless I'm not understanding the direction y'all are going, look at the diversity of type of reef tanks you can keep: softies, mixed, SPS dominant. And so if you're just saying what makes a tank do better, that's not an answer you can just come up with.
I think that's why Salem
is drinking
jump to the study he is the citizen science study he's running. not just to pimp that. And was that your aminos? You were pouring your aminos?
Yes, that was my protein powder, actually.
That was your horse tranquilizer?
Yes, it was.
Squirrel quotations.
So that's a good question, right? What is a sufficient sample size to get rid of that, to establish baseline diversity? How could we determine that? Maybe we can't.
I think until we start getting some data back, we don't know how big the universe of discourse is. We're hoping. I would be happy with an N of 5 or an N of 10 giving some kind of clear trend. Would be amazing and really, really useful.
Great silence.
I thought he was frozen again. He is frozen.
That's
it's just us, Ben.
All the alcohol.
I'm here. Sorry, guys.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Daddy's here.
Hide.
This happened. So we recorded a podcast a couple nights ago, and this same thing happened. So let me remove him, and we'll just kind of wait for him to come back.
Thank God. Remus, let's talk about something better.
Are you on Wi-Fi too, Ernie?
I kind of want to know. I'm on. I've figured out my hardwire situation, so I'm good. I kind of want to know what that pigeon looks like that your son brought in earlier.
Grant,
does he still have it?
Grant, where's that pigeon?
Bro, I don't know.
Tell him to. He brought a pigeon in a clothes hamper, and we're recording a live. And he goes, Dad, look, I caught a pigeon. I'm like, bad timing, brother.
He caught a pigeon?
There was massive storms here, and there's a pigeon in a clothes hamper like, And I was like,
I
I know I
have a
Ozzy
question.
Osbourne it.
This is top of mind for me because I just watched it. But have you guys watched that PBS special out there yet?
Which one?
It just came out.
Pigeons and hampers.
The one with Jamie or the one about octopuses? Oh no, the
The-
octopus one is Disney. Yeah, I know what
you're.
you're talking about. I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, it's the
there's
Changing
one
World
Jamie
series,
Frax
and
is It's on
Yeah.
PBS.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was
forget what it's called.
interested because they were using like antibiotic paste in the ocean, and they had this really cool 3D printed like pod where they would put larvae, like one coral larvae with algae, prebiotic, and bacteria, and put that out on the reef, so it had like everything that it needed. I thought that was pretty cool. All right,
Yeah, that's all cool stuff that I was working on when I was more active in Rebecca's lab. We were looking at pre and post actions to settlement that would increase survivorship. And I would assume since then, in the last 3 years, it's gone insane and people are doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And crazy, by
Yeah.
crazy, I
There was
mean
just some
useful.
There's some interesting stuff in that documentary. I'd be interested to see what you guys think about it.
Salem is back. He broke
on
the
the
internet like Kim
All right, I'm
Kardashian.
leaving.
Thank God he's gone.
Remy
I
just
need to upgrade my internet and my blinds and my skimmer and my lights and a lot of things.
And you should get a shirt that covers your body instead of just your neck.
yeah,
Oh, okay. You don't like body positivity? Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't want to
Do
see
we
your
need to
nipples.
do something?
Just,
Oh no.
you can't show nipples on the internet, not even man pepperonis.
Well, that's not good.
Oh
I
God!
may have had a couple wardrobe malfunctions there.
Yeah.
That was
Oh my God.
funny. There's a text. Is it me or is it you guys? Oh, it's you, Salem.
Miss Janet, if you're nasty.
I unplugged my router. I plugged it back in, so I might be back on the computer. My Wi-Fi name is Trap House.
I thought it
Password
was
is
top bottom.
capital C Coral 123 is the password. I got really creative with it.
Excellent.
Oh, cool. What's your social security number?
I'll let you know that too. Yeah. Am I lagging on this too? No way.
No, you sound fine to me.
Your
Okay, good.
Yeah, you sound like you're in a can, but that's all right.
In a monster can.
I am. I'm pretty deep in this can right now.
Yeah,
better
you
start
are.
jumping before Daddy Remy shows back up.
What did I miss? What happened? It seemed like Remy jumped in and saved it.
He jumped in and he said, "I don't know what to say." And then he said, "Have you guys seen a show?" And then we said, "No." And then he said, "Well, it was good."
And then he goes, and
And then he disappeared.
I heard you say, were you talking about Rebecca Thurber? Is that who you were talking about?
Rebecca Albright was a person I worked with at the Academy on coral spawning. Remy saw that
got
show
it.
on PBS. I forget what it's called. Jamie Craggs is going to be on it. I'm sorry, I forget the name right now. But Remy saw some stuff that they were doing with larvae to give them better chances out on the reef by
Got it.
pre and post messing with them kind of things. Because I couldn't
Remy.
think of a science word. Oh, you're gone again. It's you and me, Ben.
Richard, I'm gonna get some different hair.
Okay, I'm in. I hope I stay.
Coral 1, 2, 3. You're locked up again. Get on your phone, Salem.
Oh my God, Salem! Like
What?
this is just reef beef, Richard.
there he is.
Do a reef beef.
Okay.
My name is Ben.
Oh, Jesus.
And this is why I don't trust science, Salem.
Yeah.
This is why your citizen science will never work. And the only way our reef tanks are going to work is if we put blood meal in them and we scream
Oh,
at the
no.
moon. That's the only way. It's
Bark
gonna
at the moon, not scream.
Yeah.
Bark at the moon, dude. He's just nonstop. This is Ben wearing a cape. Yes, Evie, I am wearing a cape because I am the monarch of the sea. I am the ruler of the kingdom free. That's for Indiana Jones. I just want to say that.
I'm so happy it's not us.
Daddy Remy.
I like it. Oh, Rich is asleep. Rich is asleep because he got 17 different times for meeting, but he won't say that because he's a good guest. We'll just make fun of him and it'll be okay. And now,
Wait.
I will.
hey,
Oh,
That's
it's
a
a
pigeon.
there he is.
It's okay, my brother.
Pigeon in a hamper.
It's like a butterfly. This is, what's his name, guys? Pidgey. It's very, very. Oh my God!
Oh, see the pigeon.
I don't want to scare Pidgey.
You need a bigger tank for your pigeon, man.
Is that what we're talking about here? I need a
Pigeon
bigger
police.
tank for Pidgey the pigeon.
Pigeon the pigeon. That's
What is
your
happening
kid's
right
name?
now?
I swear my kids are more creative than this. He's grounded.
Oh my gosh!
Grounded.
All right, Salem's back. Salem's back for 5 minutes.
I had a parakeet named Budgie once. And that was he was green and I called him Hulk. That's
Hey
right.
Ben, you know when you say
Did you have a pigeon? What the hell did I miss?
Salem, Richard was in the middle of saying something funny and you just show up like Sinbad from the you got to sit down, son.
Ma'am, I'm really glad. Like, I feel like this is perfect. I feel like this was supposed to happen this way.
Yeah, this is
You can do nothing but laugh. I think it's perfect.
Are you not entertained?
would you like to get us back on track, oh master of the live stream?
Yes.
Yeah. And 5 is sufficient, is what I heard. I don't know.
Oh, we were just vamping, man.
You talking about Playboy Cardi? What are you referencing? There's no way you're referencing listening to Playboy Cardi right now. Is that what you're referencing? Or do you not know what you just said?
I'm 48 years old. I don't even know what you said. I don't know who Playboy Cardi is.
Okay, never mind then. There's a thing called vamping. Don't worry about it. It's a Gen Z thing. You wouldn't get it.
It's
I'm
a different.
I thought you were really hip.
It's different than what I meant by vamping, so that's good.
What do you mean by vamping then? What,
I'm not getting into it.
okay,
I'll have to show you next time we're together.
okay. I'll show you mine if you show me yours. I'll explain vamping in my way.
That's pretty much it.
I
Okay.
would like to meet this Playboy Cardi.
Wait, sorry, there's a noise I have to.
Yeah, it's me.
Oh, okay.
Is he going off to fart? That's what it is.
No, there's a new tank that's filling, and I forgot that it's filling back there.
That's good. Okay, well, yeah. How do we unite skepticism and anecdote? What do we do?
Ben?
Aren't they just careful bedfellows?
Yeah.
You don't
Okay.
need to you don't need to unite them. You just need to put up with both of their shit. They're uneasy roommates.
Hmm.
You just anecdote is super useful and is often all we have until you came along and changed the world for the better. But it's absolutely got its limitations. So we have to know when to squint at anecdote. And that's about it, I think.
But in Richard, like go on this. Like skepticism is not cynicism.
Sure.
Yeah, that's true. It's not. It's just questioning. And like we talked about recently, most of the time when I'm saying, what's your evidence for that? It's not me being a jackass and saying you're wrong. It's me saying, I want to be convinced of what you're saying. Help me be convinced. What is it that convinced you that whatever you're reporting to me that you did actually did it? And most of the time, there's not much there. I added Monster drink to my tank, and I added chicken bouillon to my tank, and it looked better. It doesn't. Don't add bouillon to your tank.
Peanut butter.
Yeah.
Peanut butter works, guys.
Right. But that's one of the reasons I'm terrified of Reef methodology, April Fool's jokes, because they will stay forever. As somebody forever now is going to be asking about should they be adding peanut butter to their tank.
I may have learned my lesson with that one.
I listen. the last thing I would want is for you to not be trying things you think are interesting. So I wouldn't say don't ever do it again. From my perspective, the reality of doing a joke like that means we're going to have to listen. We're going to have to deal with it forever.
I think it's kind of funny if we do, though.
But it's super funny.
We're adults too, and look, this is social media. You pissed off a couple people. Who cares?
That was my approach. I'm like, I think it's pretty funny.
It gets harder when you're trying to convince people that they should be more critical. It can go either way. It could be an abject lesson of why you should think critically more, because Salem will lie to you. He will lie to your face.
Yeah.
Well, that was my point. The whole article at the end, it was an analogy for using antibiotics and how people don't question it. It was a metaphor for why we should be critical. And then the fact that people believed it was proof of what I was trying to say, that people just take what these gurus say or who they view as a guru and run with it. And I'm like, this is dangerous. And look what happened.
It was very meta.
It was meta AF.
Of course, at the same time, no, I don't want to say that. I want you to do you, and I could be wrong, because I don't like April Fool's things like that, because I'm still answering questions about how vitamin C does not cure ick 15 years later. Should not be a reason for you not to do it. All the answers, all the approaches from people who I think are thinking critically about it are good, and it's more examples of people thinking critically. Traditionally, in the hobby, there's been like 1 or 2 people championing critical thinking at a time, right? And now I think we got 3 or 4 voices that are out there in the Reef world talking about critical thinking, and it's kind of like, a new world for me.
It's a renaissance. I know 5 or 6 in the dark that can be illuminated very easily.
Yeah.
So, I think we could get a pretty decent coalition of people, thinking about some things. So here's kind of my question from what both of you said. So as you said, Rich, you being cynical is not saying you're wrong. And this takes into account what I asked you earlier, Ben. You said that you have, the certain number of tools that you use. Obviously, some of those tools are established long-term through anecdote, through practice, but still have not been looked at with a scientific light. So in both of your opinions, at what point do we accept something is right, and at what point do we say someone is wrong?
Hey, I have a good example for you if you want to get into nitty-gritty.
Let's get into this is what this is for. Let's do the nitty-gritty. Let's do it.
Dance for the nitty-gritty.
I am an obsessive user of polyfilter.
Okay.
I've read, obviously, I've been using polyfilter for over a decade. I don't know this for a fact, but I might be like one of the biggest users of polyfilter, because I don't use it as I keep polyfilter around, I'm going to throw it in here if something looks off. I run polyfilter in every single system that I do as sort of a catch-all. Now, and you can get the package. I read the package. I don't like a lot of the stuff that they say on the package. They say a lot of nonsense, but and you could ask me a million questions. I don't know what to say, but it's like so here's the anecdote, is that I have watched it do all sorts of things, turn messed up tanks around faster, with fresh water, remove tannins better than carbon, just make tanks have better clarity. They seem to, again, this is anecdote, right? From me, it'll change different colors depending upon what it absorbs. Mine always just go to a dark sort of beige or root beer, and then I replace them, or I smell them. If they're extremely fishy, I'll chunk them, put in a new one. So to me, I was about to use the word no, but I was going to say, I know that they're removing like ammonia, nitrate, but I don't know, right? Because that's not anecdote. I don't have the data to show that. But without a shadow of a doubt, I know that this product has helped me maintain tanks.
So it's in the place between proven and it makes me feel warm and fuzzy, basically is what you're saying.
I use it because I know and I have seen over the course of a decade that it helps me do what I do, but I do not have raw data, nor do I have I have interest in someone else doing the testing. I'm not going to do that because I'm not getting paid to do that.
You should.
I think, yeah.
I'll pay for it.
There you go. Salem's paying you, baby.
You should do like an NDOC or something, like before and after. See if it changes like dissolved organic carbon values. Change nothing with the tank. Complete control.
How would that work? Because there's so many variables. You would have to do a control and a.
Yeah.
No, well, the first thing we need is to see if there's any truth behind the claim you're making that it makes a difference in the systems you run.
Yes.
Now, because you're Ben, and I know you, I'm of two minds of that claim. The first one is Ben often knows what he's talking about. The second one is Ben often has no idea what he's talking about, right? So I wouldn't say that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it helps the systems you put it on. I think to be more accurate, you would need to say you think based on your experience that it helps.
No, I get it. It's the wordage because the wordage anecdote versus
right.
It becomes semantics at that point. Yeah.
But I think it's not semantics. If Ben says he knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that it helps, people who trust Ben go, well, I'm going to run a polyfilter. Now, I don't know if that's a bad thing or not, right? But I will say I ran polyfilters for years and years and years as a hedge because it's cheap and easy. It's cheap and easy, and it makes me feel like doing something, right? Those are like the three things reef keepers are all looking for. Cheap, easy, I feel like I'm helping.
Yes.
Feel like I'm helping. I don't, and but like so many other things that I used to think were critical to success of the tanks that I'm keeping, when I got lazy about replacing polyfilters, my tanks are still as bomber as they were before, or as not bomber. They're the same. I don't know. I think my tank looks great.
I hate that because Richard, I've done that same thing with like Two Little Fishies makes like an amino acid or other, Red Sea AB plus. Like I've done, having done this for so long, I'll be like, oh, what's this? Okay, I'm gonna add this. Oh my God, this looks puffier. The polyp extension looks crazier. This, and then I run out of that in the client's tank, and then I forget to order it. And then a couple months go by, I'm like, man, the Colostray looks so puffy, and why in that hyacinth the polyps are out so much? And I'm like, wait, I'm not adding that shit anymore. And that's why I thought it was doing that. And man, I have seen, because I take care of so many tanks for so many years, like I've done that scenario ad nauseum to where it's made me skeptical because I'm like, did I think that I saw that just because I did a good water change and then it had nothing to do with amino acids? And then I forgot to, I added iodine in this tank for a while. Whoa, it looks like blah, 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 blah. A couple months go by, forgot to add it. Oh, it looks great. It looks better than it did when I thought it was good because I was adding iodine. It's just insanity.
Yeah.
So I think the way we move forward. So what both of you have said, like, right, you said cheap, easy, we feel like it works. What if we could determine that it does work? So easy experiment. We get some Fritz dark water, like a tannin solution. We set up enough tanks, sufficient in, all of that. Correct experimental design would be so cheap to do. Just get little Tupperware containers, equal volume, sterilize all the water, pressure cooker, autoclave, whatever you have, bleach style sulfate. You add in the same amount or like a sufficient varying amount to have a gradient of the tannin stuff, and you add polyfilter. You see a polyfilter in a controlled environment takes out tannins of a known concentration, and you see the max amount that it can absorb. And then you take that logic and you apply it to a tank, and you do like an NDOC before and after, and you change nothing, or you try your best to change nothing with a tank. So assume you have controls or good enough controls in this instance, because Reef methodology, and then you do it. Right? I think that maybe this is how we move forward. We have people like Ben, we have people like you, Rich, and we say, what are things that we feel like works? and then we conduct practical experiments. We do crowdfunding sourcing, and we figure it out. Because the companies are too fucking lazy to do R&D. Let's do it ourselves.
Yeah,
I've always wanted to do reef busters. I think I talked about it in the first
Exactly.
Skeptical Reef keeping. And it had, it's always come down to how much of my own money am I willing to throw at things, and that's what all testing essentially has come down to. So
it doesn't have to be our own. It can be the communities. Everyone wants to know. GoFundMe, we would generate more than enough.
It's from my perspective, it's only I've only had the ability to draw on funds that I felt were usable for this that didn't come out of my bank account until recently. And that's why Sanjay and I did that ICP article earlier this year. We funded that by raiding the Reef beef coffers. And I think that's a great way to go. Mm-hmm. And I think we were talking about not siloing. I think if we could get several brains together on so many things that we've been talking about, we could develop a direction to go. So we're not all just spinning and we're all working logically towards the same goal. What makes sense and why? Because what you set up for testing Ben's pads, what are they called?
Biomarine polyfilter.
Polyfilter pads. They don't go in your pants, Ben. They go in my pants. So now tannins isn't really the question, but
sure.
But it's one thing. Whatever it is that you show, and I think you actually mentioned it, is whatever you show it does, you have to show that when it does that, it matters, right? So I don't use any kind of mechanical filtration unless there's something crazy going on in the tank.
Richard, can I ask you a favor real quick?
Yeah.
Elaine Sinclair in the chat says, always hearing them refer to Sanjay, never once heard them explain who Sanjay is. Could you please?
Sanjay Joshi is, in my opinion, one of the pillars of the hobby. He's been around for a long time and done a lot of good work and done a lot of good science that's helped the hobby move forward. He, all the discussion about metal halide versus LDD and what are the spectrums, he did all that work already. My understanding is that work got destroyed and disappeared through transfers of websites, but that was all done. And he was the guy who did it when it started. He's got a 500-gallon tank that's arguably one of the best tanks around. And he's a good guy. He's a mainstay was a mainstay on the speaker circuit. And he's really fun to hang out with. That's who Sanjay is.
He's fun to hang out with. For sure.
But it's mostly that Sanjay's scientific bent on approaching the hobby was very delicious to many of us. And so we kind of flocked around him because we wanted that. And there's traditionally there's very little of that happening. We're expecting not that guy, the other guy. It's tough to do because I'm not even going to say that anymore because I think the world has shifted and I'm trying to shift my worldview on the hobby to catch up to it. Or maybe I just disengaged for a few years and wasn't paying as much attention. But it feels like now that there might be the ability to actually get some work done.
Rich, I'm trying to do the thing. The dance move, I'm trying to do that with you. I'm trying to pull you out of your rut. Let's do some work. It's time to do some work. Let's all do some work.
I'm in. And you and Telegram have pulled me out of that. Nothing's ever going to happen because we're just stuck with companies who are making videos that are being taken as advice when they're marketing. Although that's hard, but we have to get away from the people selling you the stuff, doing the testing on the stuff.
Yeah.
Independent external verification of the stuff. And we can do that so easily.
Where that gets tricky is because, like I said, it takes money. Part of me gets pissed because, why is Biomarine not paying a third party to run these tests? Instead, they put a bunch of silly claims and really sort of, I don't know, is innocuous. Like, do less water change. What the fuck does that mean? And
It's marketing speak.
It is.
I'm going to go through and look at all the skeptical reef keeping articles again. And I'm probably either going to read them or have AI read them or have Salem read them.
same thing.
And put them out because I think that's funnier than me reading them. Because they talk about all this stuff, and it would be nice to take a look at them and see, do they need to be updated and put out there again? Because what Ben was saying is true. Although I don't actually remember what Ben was just saying, which is why I said what Ben was saying is true instead of saying what Ben said.
Exactly.
So three things. One, in terms of the companies, we have two options. Either we say, like, fuck it, we do it ourselves, crowdfunding. Or the second, we go and we email them and say, we're going to evaluate this. It'll be free marketing for you if it really works. Put your money where your mouth is. If they're afraid, that gives us half the answer. If they fund it, that's awesome. And then we have money to do it. So that's one. Two, skeptical reef keeping, revisiting it. Yes, that's what I am trying to do. Neo-skeptical reef keeping. This is the revival. I think
we can republish all the articles. You and I can work on them.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think you and I should work on them, and we should repost a new version of skeptical reef keeping that is actionable, that has a call to action in it, which the old ones, they had a psychological call to action, right? Like a mental shift, but we have an actual call to action now that is physical, that is material. Let's put them on Reef Builders.
What am I?
Let's break the silo down. Let's all get together. Let's get with the community. Let's do polls on Facebook where Reef Builders has like 120,000 followers. And we say, what questions would you like answered? I wrote this thing about macroalgae maybe being bad. Everyone's like, it doesn't assume Chaeto. I said, fuck it. I've got GCMS. Let's see if it assumes Chaeto. I think we should band everyone together and we should start questioning new and old methodologies. And as we get data, we can begin to formulate a new methodology for how we should reef that is more objective, and that helps everyone.
We have, I don't know how much we trust all of them, but we have better machinery and processes, and then we have people like, because let's be, dude, I'm not kissing your ass. I'm too old for that shit. But I'm just saying,
don't kiss my ass.
Salem is shut up, kid.
Salem, his lips.
Salem's bringing a lot of energy, and a lot of energy I like into the industry. And what's funny is, like, I think 6 months ago, I didn't even know who the hell you were, but a lot of good energy, the energy that I like, which is like, here's all these claims, here's all this shit. Let's sort of use some science that's near and dear to him, near and dear to Richard, and let's start separating the the chaff from the wheat. We can sit around and argue anecdote on stupid little forums about what works and what doesn't, or we can get some real science on it.
And we've been doing that for years, and it's time to cut the bullshit and put the pedal to the metal, and it's going to make everyone's lives easier, especially yours, Ben. Imagine if you knew everything you did was working, and you didn't have to waste money or waste your customers' money on things that may or may not be working. It allows you to be more sure about what you're doing, and you can be like one of the few people to say, yeah, I actually took part in this experiment, and now we've got proof of this. No one else is, none of my competitors are doing this. I'm your guy.
Well, we're gonna do it on social media. So if my competitors watch, I don't.
But you're still him.
Listen, though, we've got to be careful, and I think we've got to be realistic, right?
Okay.
We I want to see how your crowdsourcing of the bacterial of carbon dosing goes.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
And does that actually give us anything actionable? Because I can't. I'm sorry. Somebody wanted me to wear glasses. Okay, good. I got a yes. There. I'll wear them there. Okay.
There you go.
There, good.
I'm like the Manta from that terrible DC. What was that movie?
Aquaman.
I can't remember Aquaman. So bad. BBE. So we got to see if it works, right?
Yes.
What I don't want to do is set up a whole idea of we're going to save the world. Oh my God, it's so cool to get old. I can't even tell you how cool this gets.
We're not. Listen, we're not saying we're going to save the world, but we're saying we're going to fucking try.
Look, the voices, the guidance, the direction is either going to come from people who are out there slogging, doing this, and are just saying a thing because it's helpful, or motherfuckers that are just trying to make a buck. And I get tired of that shit, man.
I get tired of the buck bullshit, and this is how we beat it.
So check it out. Here's what I'll tell you about microbiome and genetic testing.
Let's hear it.
When it first started a few years ago, I did a test of my display tank and one of the tanks here in the lab. And they came back different. And it was like, I don't even know what to do with this. And nobody knew what to do with this. And it was like, what is going on? And it didn't pick up acrobating flatworms, but I did the wrong test. And it was confusing to me at the time. Now it looks to me like if I want a real idea of what's going on here, I need to do a test for my display, both of the tests, right? The genetics and the Reef DNA and the biomics, right? There's two.
16 and 18.
So I got to do 2 of that. I got to do at least one of these 4 tanks, but I probably should do all 4 of these tanks. And I should do my sump. Right? So that's 1, 2, that's 6, that's 12, that's 24 tests to Eli.
No. You want to be a guinea pig?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, finish. I have a solution, but finish.
This is where people find themselves. What do I do? What do I test? And how far do I go? And how much money do I spend on this? Is this worth it? Do I do an ICP test every week? Is that useful? You know, those kinds of questions, if it's useful at all. Bam, bam, it's on. No, I don't care.
I think it's useful. I think it can be.
If we could start, no, I'm just being a jackass.
Sure, I know.
If we could start giving some best ideas about how to use this stuff and what realistically it's going to tell us, it would be fantastic. Instead of people all going, I don't know what to do. How many tests should I send? Does it matter? We should be figuring out ways to have people who are interested. And this stuff is for not most of the hobby. That's the other thing I think is really important. Most of the hobby does not care about this and shouldn't care about this.
Sure.
Most of the hobby should not be using their tanks as a guinea pig. If you are trying to keep coral alive for 6 months and having a hard time, don't be testing anything. Figure out how to keep the coral alive, right?
Can you imagine just getting into the hobby and tripping into a Chris Meckley conversation about pegging your pH and all this, and you don't even know what pH is? You don't even know what alkalinity is. You've never heard of magnesium. You've never even kept a clownfish alive. That's not on Chris. That's on these new hobbyists just jumping in. If they jump into social media and get caught in all these things and like, oh, imagine you just got into the saltwater aquarium industry 1 week ago. And now you're like, oh, I got to send in an aquabiomics test. Like, build your foundation first.
I agree. This is for the trailblazers. You got to know your place and where you're at, and be honest with where you're at in the industry and where you're at in the hobby.
So it's for the people who want to mess around. I don't like the word trailblazers because I'm a jackass. Because I feel like, I feel like everyone should be able to do everything, and I'm wrong, but that's how I was raised as a Gen Xer. So it's for people who understand what's going on and understand the risks of it. And this, by the way, this is not a chef jacket. It's called a Howie lab coat, and it's not completely on properly because I didn't have time, but it's got all kinds of buttons and stuff over here that should be connected. And the idea with it was you are completely covered and there is no way for any noxious fluids to get onto your tweed suit.
Exactly.
I'm glad we both decided for a wardrobe change simultaneously. It felt right. It felt right, and we both acted. It was a transitional moment, and we needed to transition the aesthetic as well. It was meant to be.
My heart's very floppy.
So I actually think that a group going, what you're doing, we're going to crowdsource this and we're going to test it and then we're going to write it up is the right way to go. And that's kind of what we did with the ICP thing. A bunch of beefers helped out to be able to make it happen because we wanted the companies to not know where it was coming from because they would treat it differently and that kind of stuff. So I think I'm in for all of that kind of stuff.
Here's the thing with the aquabiomics thing. So you've got lab work. I'm assuming you have conducted a serial dilution at some point in all of your experience.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do a serial dilution, you have to homogenize the sample.
Mm-hmm.
We're not homogenizing the samples in this instance. But why don't you just take 5 mils from each of your tanks, put them into one vial, homogenize it, take the sample from that?
Because that tells us something different.
I think it tells you an average of all of those systems, which is what you're looking for. Maybe it is not that gives you the diversity answer, but not the concentration of the families answer. So you get one of the metrics, you don't get both. But here's the thing. Eli's a pretty reflexive guy and sees the limitations of his services. And he is someone, at least from my experience of speaking with him at Reef Stock with some beers, which I feel like is a very real experience of him. I feel like he'd be open to trying new things to improve his service. So I think maybe that's part of it too. It's brainstorming with manufacturers who are open and are willing to take criticism to improve their products. And that can be very, very much paired with the community science angle and say, okay, here's the limitations, make something better.
Yeah, no, I think that's great.
Us as longer term reef people, we should demand this shit. I wouldn't expect much from someone just coming into the hobby. They got to figure out what they're doing, and they're not even necessarily part of this industry. Us people should start pushing back, demand this. I don't know where it would go, but
we're not their customers.
At least on social media.
You kind of are, but the people listening to our show, no, that's not even true. Long-term, people who have been in it for 20 years are not buying crap hand over fist. New hobbyists are driving the economics of this hobby and this industry. And spending the time and money to potentially show that your product doesn't do what you tell people it does is not something you're going to do when you cannot spend that time and money and keep selling it hand over fist to people who want to feel like they're doing something to their tank.
Sure.
So I don't think. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, sure. But I think that can be changed. How does any consumer change their mind even when they come to a new market? There is some, no matter the person, there is some low level of cost benefit analysis, right? Like, let's assume that maybe not everyone will be impacted by our critique and our analysis of all the snake oil that's out there. But let's assume maybe some people will. If we break down the silos, have a collaborative effort, that means there is a very large platform from multiple media sources that say, this is maybe bullshit. So anyone that is on the track to becoming a long-term reefer, that is doing their research, that is attempting to become informed, now sees a very large combined method or message that says, maybe you should think about this one. So while we will not get everyone and no practical methodology could, I think that this is worthwhile, despite the monolithic influence of corporate, reefing.
Absolutely. I was just saying that's why companies aren't doing the testing themselves. We can demand till we're blue in the face, but we're not the ones who are going out there and buying skimmer after skimmer after skimmer to find one that we like,
Sure.
that we think works. So the skimmer manufacturers aren't gonna listen to us. I agree, Amanda. We should, if they're talking about live animals, they should back it up. Absolutely.
We talk about this on Reef Beef a lot. This is a weird hobby because it involves an animal's life. So that we come to things flippantly like, oh, should I ammonia dose? Should I do this weird thing? Should I do that weird thing? there's a party in your hobby that doesn't get a vote, and that's the animal. And these people, now I'm from, the retail. I spent 10 years in 5 different retail stores. So, I was where the rubber meets the road, where people are, not advanced people are coming in. And there's a lot of people that act like fish and corals are cut flowers. And I fucking hate that.
Yep.
Oh, I killed a yellow tang, or I'm having a party. Let me throw a bunch of fish in. They did it on TV and the ATM. I killed a yellow tang. That's okay. I'll always get another one. Cut flowers.
Nobody said anything about that when that show was on. I'm just lying. People screamed from the rooftops about that while that show was going on. And yeah, they kept going on.
This is a look shiny hobby, but man, if you have half a brain and any morals at all, you're buying fucking animals. And you
But
this highlights the problem with our entire world, man. It's anthropocentrism.
like in the Marvel universe with the collector.
Said the man with a pigeon in a hamper.
Oh,
I didn't do it. I've been on this live stream the whole time. When this is over, I'm gonna go spank my child right in the heart.
Well, listen. Here it's really interesting. People, Americans, don't. In one of the articles, I did a hierarchy of caring. People don't care about fish.
Sure.
We eat fish. We don't think fish feel things. We'll go fishing and then nail all the fish while they're still alive to a board and put it behind us and pose about how great we are and look at all these fish dying behind us. So it's very hard. I'm going to do one more. We have that problem with dogs and cats as well, right? People
with dogs.
People will treat pets, any level of pet, as disposable and do any kind of mental contortions, justified or not, to make themselves feel good about the choice they're making to not have that animal anymore. So if we have a problem with dogs and cats, which we do, because we have 1 billion shelters that kill 2 billion of those animals a year because nobody wants them, it's really hard to get people to think that they should. I think it's hard to expect people to think of a dying fish as anything but a thing you throw away and replace, because that's what we do with fish.
It's even harder to do, to think about that in terms of coral, or think about that in terms of bacteria. It's all life. It's all beneficial. It's all part of something larger that we can't even comprehend. But we don't care because we think we're dominant to them. It's a dominant, subservient relationship. Anthropocentrism.
Somewhere, right? I mean, I know there's that Buddhist concept of like sweeping before you walk so you don't step on.
Oh, the Jains. That's a Jain thing.
We're getting into fucking Jainism now. Oh my God.
I mean, by doing this, I'm killing bacteria.
So I have a philosophy degree and I love ethics. Ethics are so cool. Ethics and morals are so cool. And every time I wade into this and write something about it, I'm on the verge of getting out of the hobby completely.
Yes.
Because this is just the tip of the spear, of what happens in the hobby. The machinery that brings these animals to us is filled with non-living things, and jet fuel to fly them to me so I have something pretty to look at, and plastic and styrofoam that I throw away, and energy. The amount of energy that we spend on these tanks is unbelievable in my house, because granted, my house is stupid. I've got a lot of stuff going on. Justifying all of that becomes difficult as well. So I get a little squidgy when people go, the animals should come first, when we really don't care about the animals. We don't care that right now, tomorrow morning when you're eating bacon, you probably don't care how that pig was treated to get you that bacon, because most of them is not good. And we all know that. And we just kind of go, okay, because what else are we going to do? We're just people. all that said, yes, you should take care of the animals you've taken responsibility for, because that's the right thing to do.
So I want to go down the other point you made. Like, yes,
No.
I agree with the conclusion. I think it is good. I think it is worth the energy. I think in both like if we're going to take the classic debate, I think in a utilitarian and a deontological lens that it is worth it. And here is why. Because for every person who does not give a shit, there may be one that does. And I think that I think inevitably climate change is going to ravage the reefs. I think by 2060, 2090, they're gone. No matter what we do. That's just the track we're on. So I think the only way to conserve them as a species will be to master how to take care of them in captivity and to master aquaculture, master spawning, etc. And I think that, the modus operandi for what we should be doing as hobbyists is figuring out how to do that best. And I think the future is going to basically be this arc. It's going to be a gene bank. We're going to have to keep as much coral, as much of that diversity in captivity as possible, and simply hope for a better day in which, the fucking Wunsler goes and gives the seed to the next generation. And we can replant these things maybe when we have sufficient geoengineering technology, if that day ever comes. I think there is an ethical imperative to try to preserve their biodiversity. And I think the only way we do that is because we have an existing supply chain to get them into captivity. So while in the short term, it might be very bad, I think in the long term, there is an inevitable outcome, and we need to position ourselves towards a lens of conservation. That's what this is. This is a conservative effort that we're all partaking in, and we simply don't see it yet because time has not come to where now, euphilia is extinct in the wild. We are determining how to take care of these species the best.
So
that's what I think.
I'll give you two responses to that.
Okay.
One, most of the hobby, you said we. Most of the hobby is not we. Most of the hobby is doing cut flowers.
I agree.
We'll just use that as a catch-all. So immediately I could see making there be an expensive license to keep a reef tank. And everything would be more expensive because we care about the animals. We don't want to lose them in transit. So overpacking boxes goes away, and it all just becomes more expensive to do because we're trying to keep the animals alive, not feed the consumerism around the animals. So that's one thing. And I'm okay if that happens. I mean, I'm not okay with that happens, but
that seems like a practical limit that I could agree with. I think that could be good. Yeah.
The other practical part is that consumers in general don't care when one of the things they can get goes away. They find another thing. Hawaii, we couldn't get stuff for years before. People are freaking out about Hawaii. It actually happens. No one really cared. Then biota had a few yellow tangs. People cared about the price because they were captive bred. Some people bought them. Some people didn't. That's just a few of the fish we can't get anymore right now. So I think it'll be harder. I think when the cascade starts, this will all make more sense. And your point will be much more true. But right now, it's still a consumer-driven hobby, and there's a lot of loss in that consumerism.
I agree, but I think that, so the biota example, right? We were still able to satisfy that demand for yellow tangs, albeit there was a higher price because of lower supply, because we had basically the science figured out to breed them through experiential knowledge, through keeping them in the hobby. So I think that this is where people like us, or anyone that's likely watching this, or anyone on the Reef Builders team, or any of the Reef Beepers comes into play. It is going to come in the next 20 to 40 years to where there are issues with supply, because these animals are dead in the wild, not because of regulations. So I think that it is imperative that all of us band together to find out the best ways to keep them alive. And that can not only in the future keep the supply for the consumer alive to where we can get more people involved and hopefully generate more people like us that are passionate about this and passionate about the conservative angle. But I think it also allows for the species to continue to live. We should figure out how to keep Dendronephthya in the aquarium, things like that, right? And that requires collective effort, which is where this whole community science angle is coming from. I don't see this as just like a quirky, let's grow corals faster. I see it as the long-term vision of, we are essentially scientists in a way, experientially, but now we can be armed with data. Let's figure this shit out because it's going to come down to maybe us to figure it out.
I've heard this talk for so many years, and it's like herding cats, because to date, I don't know of any organization that has created like a good, clean pathway towards doing this. So like I said, it's like herding cats. It's not that it shouldn't be done. It's just, you know, anytime you make an organization, people want to get paid, and then the money goes away, and then they're saying 90% of the money goes to the organization and not to the, it's tricky, you know.
Crowdfunding.
Let me answer for Salem. Can I try? Can I
Yes.
try
Yes.
Salem for a second?
Yes.
He's transmogrifying.
Yeah, you're right, Ben. Screw all that. We don't care about all that.
Let's fucking try.
We've got people who are interested. Let's
Oh,
get to work.
I'm not just naysaying. I'm just bitching and not coming up with a solution, but I'm saying let's get the fuck after it.
Let's do it. I think we've came to the conclusion. We have to do it. Both of you.
Yeah, now again,
Listen,
the same thing.
this is my goal of having both of you on, is to, but also to all the viewers, right? This is my master vision, and this is what I hope to do on Reef Builders or with the platform. This is not about how we fucking color up a torch. This is about how we save these species, and we all have a role to play in that. And why should we not try?
And I think the roles, I think the roles should be, I think we should police the role.
Okay.
I think I'm going to say this badly, but you'll understand what I'm saying. I think people in their first year of the hobby should only be keeping aquacultured animals.
I agree.
And that's a hard sell, but that's, you know, I've said that for a long time. There's no reason to learn how to keep fish by buying some joculators. It just doesn't, there's no reason to do that except to go look at this thing that I've got. And I think if you want to do that, you know, get a really nice monitor or a piece of art.
Yeah, but how do you do that? By licensing is the only way, and then people are going to get their undergarments in a wad, because now
it's going to happen anyway. It's coming.
I agree.
And I made this
and my daughter. They all know it.
It's like divorce court. Like we're either gonna, and we're seeing this with all the year after year, you know, the Indo-Pacific or Hawaii. We're either gonna figure this out, or the powers that be are gonna figure this out for us. And the powers that be that are gonna figure this out for us, the judge in divorce court is not going to have your best interest. He's just trying to settle this thing.
Right. We're gonna get screwed. If I've been asking for there to be a centralized body with best practices and
Isn't that Max certified?
And position papers, something to help guide us, because otherwise we're all siloed. I mean, you know, we didn't just make up the idea of siloing, you know, that's what's happened. And the problem is the industry actively destroys any organization like that, which is why I like what Salem's saying. Screw it. We don't need an organization to do it. We can just do it.
Yes.
And I think that's great. But at the same time,
doing it
without doing the work. We've all been doing the work. I breed corals in my house. Before that, I bred cephalopods no one had ever bred before and published on it so everybody else could do it. You know, it's people in the hobby are doing things and sharing the results. But that's one of the things, I'm sorry, that destroyed the MBI, the Marine Breeding Initiative, was that some people were keeping their techniques to themselves. Those people are jackasses.
We got to be open source, because this is not about ego. It's not about money. It's about a bigger vision. And that is, we have the ability as a collective to impact the world. Like we simply fucking do.
So, I have metasepia here now, right? And they're a pain in the ass to work with, and they're expensive, and it was a freaking abattoir in shipping, right? Which I knew it was going to be. Why do I do that? Because I want it to become easier to keep these animals, and I want other people to breed them, so when I want them just for a lark, they're always available to me. I don't want to be breeding them. Why am I spawning? I'm spawning because it's cool and it's still new and there's still stuff to learn and I can still have an impact on it. But very quickly, I think I'm going to be eclipsed by what's happening at Ames and what's happening in Florida. And, there will very soon be it will just be a fun thing for me to do if I want to do it. And I probably won't spend all the time doing it, unless I start breeding, reverse anal gorilla face acro or whatever the hell.
Grafted Ghanies,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's a suspicious market angle to all of it as well, I think. Hey, Remy. Sorry, Remy, could you bring up that question from Eric again? I'm on my phone, so I couldn't see it, and I did want to engage with that.
Yeah, there were two that came up that were interesting.
Yeah, there was one that I really liked.
I'm getting a little bit every once in a while from looking at the side.
There was something prior to that, I think. Yes, there it is. Okay.
I do think that Eric says, I do think that the hobby pushes forward the ability to successfully keep corals in captivity and the availability of equipment and knowledge to do so, though. By that, I mean conservation of coral and other reef species.
There was one way before all of these, Remy. It was different than these. I assume it's before.
It had a different color to it. It's like a super chat or something. I don't know what.
Rich is colorblind.
I hate you. It was this one. I bet you it was this one that I can't read.
Yeah, because I don't have any view of the chat. It's only what I see from you, Remy, because my phone is stupid.
It was somebody paid for a chat for.
Are you talking about Luis or are you talking about Eric?
I thought it was Eric, but maybe it was a different name. It was on there for like a second, and then Rich started on his rant, and I was like in the zone.
This one?
For some reason, the fish that are coming in the past year have had many more issues than before. That one?
It was one about like our view of the hobby, like how do we actually accomplish this though? It was like, yeah, it's good in practice, but how do we conservation can be a thing, but like, what's the barrier? Yes, this one. Okay, it's a big shift from how the hobby currently operates, which isn't focused on conservation. It's definitely possible, but I think it would actually take is hardly acknowledged in the discussion. So here's what I think it would take. People that are fucking dedicated and some money from a little bit of everyone that's willing to do that. And I don't think it would take a lot of money. So I think that we have a centralized kind of body, a round table, and a aquarium Avengers, so to speak, that comes together that are scientifically minded, but also have the experience. And they come together and they form practical experimental design with a sufficient sample size. And then they say, okay, here is our proposition. We need people that are going to adhere to this protocol, and we need money from the community. And if we get all this together, we can then do it. So while that seems hard on paper, we're already doing it with the carbon dosing study. We have organized that already, and we are beginning to do it. Probably we're waiting till it graduates. Like in 2 weeks now, we're going to start it middle of May. So that is something we have already developed the infrastructure for with aquabiomics, for an example. I think having a broader community discussion that breaks the compartmentalization of media organizations of different people. We should not view each other as competitors. We are all synergistic. And I think ultimately we all have the same passion and goal. And that is these animals are really cool and unique. And if they're going away, why do we not try to save them? So that's my take on that.
Good, Richard, I want to know what you think about this. Like traditionally sort of the wholesalers and transshippers are sort of like rough on each other. And not saying where they got stuff from and methods
it's all the Wild West. This is the problem why without having a central body that talks about best practices and there's no reason to say best practices a different way, and takes positions on the environment and how we do things at every level, it's just everyone's trying to make their own buck. And we're not, and we haven't done a good job of bringing the bulk of people together to go a direction. Everything that we've tried so far has been destroyed. You know, the Mac got killed from other reef keepers. There was another one that was working or that was trying. The Mac tried to come back and got destroyed again. You know, people do not want any certifications because they want to. The best version of that is because they want the freedom to be able to act the way they think is the best. And the worst version of it is they want to hide in the shadows and get away with whatever they can get away with.
Okay, but wouldn't that be weird? Is it me as a maintenance company? I was like, you can be licensed by, you know, and I could make a shell company called ABC, you know, licensing, you know, and you have to get this license to be considered a good, you know, aquarium maintenance company. Like, it's a conflict of interest that
it's difficult. You know, I was just talking with a solar guy the other day, you know, all certifications, you know, people just want there to be a certification now. They don't actually care if the certification has any oomph in it or not. So it's a weird place, which is why I like what Salem is saying about we don't care about all of that. We're going to do it ourselves. If nobody else will do it, we're going to do it ourselves. And, you know, if I 15 years ago could have figured out a way to make reef, you know, reef busters a thing, and nobody bid at it, and I didn't have any disposable income at the time, so we didn't do it. You know, but now it's a different world. We've got live streams that didn't exist 15 years ago. So I think we can do the funding. And also now, you know, I think this is the first time in a long time where different media outlets in the hobby are talking to each other without the business people gatekeeping us.
Hey,
I
John,
would also say devil's advocate. If you're someone in the business side, this is the best way to make money. If you don't give a shit about the animals, but you give a shit about the paycheck, imagine how much money you're going to make when you're the only person that's spawning torches in captivity and they're extinct in the wild, and you have sole, you know, monopoly over the supply of them for domestic trade. You can charge whatever you want if someone wants one.
Then you're a dick.
You are a dick, but there's dicks in this industry that need to hear that. And maybe we can even get the dicks on board through a unified vision.
I see what
Maybe
you're saying.
they're in it for the wrong reasons, but fuck, they're in it. That's my point.
Little story. In 1994, my first the first time, 1994.
I worked at the Houston Zoo, and the curator caught me reading Ray Bradbury.
30 years ago.
That was 6 years before I was born.
No, okay, so 1994.
7.
I worked at the first pet store I ever worked at, which is Fish and Chirps Pet Center in Denton, Texas, and the two brothers, Daniel Schneider and Mark Schneider, that ran the store. They ran it ever since the 70s. And they used to tell me these stories like pet stores in the 70s, like you could sell monkeys, you could sell alligators, you could sell coyotes. It was insane. But they tell me that because one of the brothers, Mark Schneider, was a prolific, like expensive parrot breeder, cockatoos and double yellowheads and African grays and stuff like that. But he said in the 70s that they would like duct tape birds and put them in a box and send the box. And it was just known that some of the birds were going to come in dead. And then if you got a couple African grays out of a box, then that was good. So anyways, I wasn't around then, but whatever powers that be saw all this. And then a law was passed. And basically, if you can't breed these birds, you ain't getting them. And so that's why, a lot of the parrots, the high-end parrots that you see, the macaws and the cockatoos and stuff like that, like they have to be bred. You can't get those from South America. They're all captive bred.
When in I guess the 80s and 90s, when I was working in fish stores and we were bringing in reptiles and birds, I saw a lot of this. And that stuff, because people care more about reptiles and birds than they do about fish. It was birds in a hamper. Exactly, Jay Ellis. What the hell are you doing, Ben?
I did not do that.
Oh, yeah. Like you're not responsible for your demon spawn.
Well, okay. But then, no, we don't have to get sidetracked.
Okay. All right.
My son
if it was in a glass tank, he would clean it.
That's right. If it's in a hamper, you don't care.
Yep. Glass
There wasn't
tank.
even a bulkhead in that hamper.
A feeding tube.
So people treat animals really badly, and now in birds, it is much harder to get wild birds. It's almost exactly what I'm saying. The wild stuff costs more. People still buy it for the reasons you were talking about, because if I invest a bunch of money in some macaw, I'm sorry, the only macaw I can think of just went extinct, so I'm not going to say that out loud because I don't want to fall out.
Oh my God, that's so sad.
Right? I am investing in those animals. I remember people investing in, gold Nile monitors to breed them with the idea of then I'll make money back and we won't have to collect them. But now you can't, the kibosh is on a whole bunch of wild collected reptiles and birds. Government did what government's supposed to do. I know we all hate government. Yeah, it's great. But government's supposed to make decisions that we are bad at making for ourselves, like saving species' lives.
And Private Ryan.
Hey,
Remy.
Bring up Matthew Smoyer's comment again. Peer review.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your take on this, Richard? Because I think that peer review is a double-edged sword, which can certify information to some extent, but obviously some journals are certainly pay to win, and I think a lot of it is pay to win. And I think that if you have statistically significant data, that speaks for itself, and you don't need someone else to kind of tell you how it is. I think the peer review may have been constructed from kind of a corrupt process, like in the 60s, where they wanted to make money off of universities for paying for journals.
Yeah,
I don't know, though.
The idea behind peer review is great. You want to have someone check your work, right? Before it's published. And then the journal, it's not just an editor, because the editor is not expert in that field. So they want to have somebody else who is expert in that field check it. Now, I'll tell you, with every article I've ever written, except for maybe some blog posts, I have peer review, right? There's no formal peer review, because who the hell is going to formally peer review an ethics article about aquarium keeping? No one, only other aquarium keepers. There's no journal I could send that to. Do public aquarists? There's good public aquarists and there's not good public aquarists. So we can't just blanket peer review, to public aquarium. So for us, I think it gets really difficult and really easy. I think if you're a jackass, you don't have someone look over your stuff, right? But for the ICP article that we just did, that was crowdfunded essentially. I had Jim Welsh look at it, and I had Chris Malpin look at it, and I had a couple other people who I won't name look at it. And I went, are we crazy? What's wrong with this? Help me fix it. And they did. And so I've done that with every article, because I want the article to be as useful and as true and as good as it can be. And if you just write it from your head and don't show it to, most of these places don't really have editorial staff like they used to. Coral Magazine still does. So I think peer review is critical. I think everything you said about peer review and science right now is true. All this late stage capitalism stuff makes a lot of things really difficult that shouldn't be. Peer review is a really good idea. The way peer review is working is really awful. Reviewer number 2 is always a dick and is always telling you stuff that's not what they're there to tell you, right? We did a paper. I'm so happy, and the water quality for the larvae and the grow out was in the paper, and the phosphate was 0.9 when it happened. So in the paper it says, it doesn't comment on it. It just says it was 0.9, and a reviewer 0.9, not 0.09, 0.9. And the corals grew just fine, right? Or just fine enough, as far as we know. Reviewer 2 went on a whole tangent about ways to deal with phosphate. And it was like, why are you wasting all of our time? This is not a paper about dealing with phosphate. You just think that phosphate is important, and you don't know who you're talking to about talking about phosphate is important. Because I'm just a jerk about it. But that's the kind of thing that happens in peer review that is not useful. What's the point of the peer review? And I think part of that problem is the people doing the peer review don't get any money, but everybody else in that chain gets money, and except the author, really. So it's just backwards.
I just think it's important to highlight that there's, from the public perception for people who are not involved in actually producing publications which go through the traditional peer review process to be put in a scientific journal, right? Like I'm writing a review paper right now. I've at least become very acquainted with how this works. I don't have as much experience as you do, Richard, but I'm there to some extent. Trying. My point is that I think from the outside looking in, people say like everything we're talking about, and they're like, we want peer review. That is not going to happen for what we're advocating. Like, there's not a journal who's going to publish this shit.
Right.
Plain and
No,
simple.
we're going to publish it. But if you and I, Salem, so if we do like even just, we reboot Skeptical Reef Keeping and go through it again, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to send it to you. You're going to send it back to me. I'm going to send it back to you. And then we're going to send it to a couple of other people to look at.
That's peer review in its own way, but we don't pay to have it in an official journal. And that does not mean it's any less valid. Like the Manhattan Project, there wasn't fucking peer review. There was the top physicist in the country, and they all checked each other's work in the same way because they were experts in that field. And you know what they did? They made the atom bomb. You don't have to have a peer review process to prove something to be true in a scientific sense. It's such bullshit. It pisses me off. Like, I understand it. It makes sense, but you don't have to have it in a journal for it to be, in quotations, true. Statistics speak what you need.
What, Benjamin? Because Salem hung up on us.
Oh,
he
damn it.
No, you're back.
Point on his prove a point meter, it just exploded.
Good, and he's gone again, and he's back again.
I got shut down.
Also, who's going to peer review? Who's going to be? Most science people have no idea how to keep aquariums. There's no point in talking about biological filtration in an aquarium with somebody who studies biological filtration out in the wild. They're different animals. So, yeah, maybe we need we don't need any of that. We need to just do it.
We're not making a journal, Rich. We're not going to do it. I saw it.
I keep stopping myself from going, we can make an organization. Because that's how my brain has worked. And
we need to be decentralized.
Yeah, we just need
Deleuze, rhizomatic, embrace it.
It's the whole reason I stopped getting a master's. So at the academy, I stopped working in the aquarium. I was working in the spawning lab doing that work. And it was like, might as well get a master's while I'm here, right? And everyone was excited. It was like, great. We'll do some great work. It'll be fun. Did it for about a year and then had a conversation with Adam Savage where he reminded me how awesome it was that I had become some kind of person of note in this field without having an academic background in the field. And I thought about that and went, if I get a master's degree, all I am is another master's student. And all of the scientists who look at me and talk to me like I'm a real person, because I come from the outside world with practical knowledge of cephalopods, of keeping and breeding them, they just now see me as a master's student. And that's not what I want. So I'm all with you. We should just do it because we think it's the right thing to do and do the best job we can.
I'm just saying that there might be mistranslation for the public's conception of what peer review is, to where maybe they don't view that as good enough. And I think that we need to have these conversations we just had and explain that, A, traditional peer review is probably flawed in a lot of ways and pay to win. And B, we're going to do it in our own way and that's good enough. We're going to have statistically significant data, and that's, assumedly, and that's great.
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully.
I will laugh so hard, and it'll be great. By the way, it doesn't matter how the carbon dosing project goes, and I'm available to do that. I think you probably have enough people, but if you want me to help, we can.
No, you should do it just to do it. You'll get like a bobblehead in the mail if you do it.
Okay. Well, fuck, I want a bobblehead. $20. Yeah.
It's like Reef Builder Science Contributor or some shit. We'll figure it out. I don't know.
Yeah. I will laugh so hard if every tank is different. There is no trend that comes through it at all. It's just the noisiest data ever, because that's really useful too. Right?
You know what that means?
Andrew. Oh, I'm sorry, what?
So you know what that means?
We got to do more work.
And a 50 next time. Let's
That's right.
expand it. Yes, let's get a trend.
Hey, this is tangential, and excuse me if I'm shifting the conversation here. But
Shift it.
There's something that bugs me, but it almost seems what's the word? It almost seems like a conflict of interest for me to think this way. But I mean, I'm 48. I've been doing this since I was 16 years old. And so if I didn't have any morals about this, it would be weird. But so I see a lot of the times that some people or entities or companies and it makes sense why, but are obsessed with growing the hobby, more people. I think it's weird, man, because at the same time, when the ocean is burning and we're like, hey, we should take from it more. And while at the same time, I clean tanks. I understand that if I was a manufacturer of a product, I make product A, I just want more people to buy product A. Or I pull things from the ocean. I just want more people to get things from the ocean. Or I'm after pulling from the ocean and I have a coral chop shop. I just want more orders. I want more stuff. I get that as a business aspect. I understand that. But the obsession with growing the hobby to me feels icky. Am I weird?
So I don't think you're weird, but I do think in terms of the time frame, there's a time frame thing, right? So I think in 15, even 10 years, you will certainly not be weird. But I think this devil's advocate time, I think right now is the time to grow the hobby. And that is, at least in terms of Australia, or like now Hawaiian collection, if the stuff goes through the courts, there is expansive environmental impact assessments that shows that our collection has little to no impact on like the actual reef populations. Indo, who knows, right? A lot less regulations there with that stuff. So I think so long as the data is showing that what we are doing does not impact things in a negative way, we should try to grow the hobby in hopes of the ultimate goal that we can get more people who are on board or who could be on board with this long-term vision of conservation. I think that very quickly the data will shift and it will no longer be sustainable collection, given the external environment, disease, things like that. But I think that so long as it's in the green, at least according to pretty expansive studies, we should run with it and try to get as many people in here who would take part in developing this kind of conservative angle as possible. The more people passionate about corals, the higher likelihood they survive as a species.
But it's going to be more people where the rubber meets the road in the beginning. Thank you, sir. A tasty beverage. More people killing and burning.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think there's enough people in the hobby now who have the experience to be doing the kinds of things that you're talking about. And while I like new people coming into the hobby anyway, because we always need new voices, I think that the growth of the hobby is always just numbers. There's no quality. It's unqualified leads. So we want to qualify the leads. Look, if you want to play with saltwater animals, I saw a note here about that is freshwater people think that our stuff is expensive and complicated, and we should maintain that perception. I
agree with that.
There it is. But the truth is, saltwater is expensive and complicated. We can get all in the weeds and talk about how you can budget saltwater, which you can, but it's a luxury hobby and it costs money, and it just does. And if you don't want it to be a luxury hobby that costs money, there's absolutely a way to do that. And there's absolutely a way to buy less expensive animals that are even more ethical to learn on, right? It's like if you're going to doctor school, you don't just start chopping up people. You chop up dead people first, because it's less of a cost.
You do the guppies and the hornwort.
Right. and there's no reason that freshwater isn't the way in. To this hobby, it was for me.
It was for me too.
So I think we have the way to do it. And what were we talking about? Ben was talking about growth. I'm against growth industries because I think they inevitably eat themselves. I think companies get too big, whatever that level is, and then it's a different game. And maybe we're seeing that with the Aperture, maybe we're not. So I'm not a big fan of the grow the hobby. People were saying when the show Tanked was on, look, it's growing the hobby, and it's like, but it's growing the hobby with people. Maybe out of my butt, 10% of the people who came into the hobby through that show are still around and in the hobby. The 90 other percent went, oh, it's cool and super easy. Look, they put an octopus in his butt. Let's do that. And that's what we got. So it's like we're growing the hobby just grossly instead of smartly.
Okay, so I am on the fence of being convinced, but I have two questions for both. I have two questions for both of you. All right, so this is dialogue.
Oh, you freaking! Who's Plato in this? Ben. Ben is Plato. Okay.
Ben is Plato.
You're gonna die, Ben.
What are you?
The realm of forms are the systems he creates. They are beyond our perception. Their beauty is incomprehensible.
Awesome.
This is the cave.
Get in the cave.
Let me think here. What the fuck was I going to say? So one, you said we need more quality, not quantity. A, how do we bring that quality out? B, you gave the example of Tanked, and obviously that is not invoking quality. Is a way we can bring that quality out?
Absolutely.
Through what we're talking about?
Absolutely.
Because that seems pretty good.
Absolutely. I agree. And I also don't care. Let's do it because it seems to us to be the right thing to do and the right way to go. We don't need everyone's buy-in. We just need, look, there's a vacuum right now. If you start doing studies, you become the de facto central body for information. Nobody
I have a lot of studies I have not talked about that will probably be done by August.
Fantastic.
And they will probably change things. That's all I will say in regard to.
Yeah, well, that's all Jesus of the internet is
That's
allowing you to see because we're all,
No,
we're
it's
all
big.
like,
That's correct.
No, it's big reefing. Big reefing was scrambling
Big
his.
reefing scrambled your router.
Big reefing. Oh my God, was that what happened? It all makes sense now.
Aperture was like, yeah.
No, it's not. Aperture's a puppet. Big reefing's behind Aperture.
That's true.
BlackRock.
Yeah. There was a question about the reptile hobby. Is it more regulated than this one?
Yeah, I like that one.
In a way, it is. Yeah. You go to a reptile show now, almost everything at a reptile show is captive bred.
That's great.
And it's not even just captive bred. They can tell you, if this is a leucistic het or, they can give you the genetics of, they track what they breed, right? And it's great. But it's also crazy because they go to one show and this one type of gecko sells really well. They go to the next show, no one buys that gecko. So, yeah, it is. We're not pulling stuff out of the wild. Regulation about, do you need to be able to know how to keep these animals? No one cares about that. I mean, that's just freedom. You can't take it freedom. I can do whatever I want to my animals.
Freedom fries.
Sugar jams.
Freedom frags. I still have to buy freedom frags. Nobody get freedomfrags.com. That's mine.
We just need to go on down to Flavortown.
What else? Salem, guide us, showrunner.
Alpha Bro Reefer time.
You gotta hit it.
That was we already covered the experience thing. Damn, I had a point. So yeah, I guess the reptile hobby is a decent analogy for kind of where I envision this going. Besides like the over collection that occurred in the beginning, which maybe contributed along with many other factors to their downfall, I see this being like axolotls, right? Fucked in the wild. There's like 1-2 canals that have them left. but there are so many domestic breeders. That species is now enjoyed. It's in Minecraft. It is conserved. It exists still. So, and it kind of takes advantage of the fact that people enjoy the aesthetic and the goofiness of them. I think that a similar thing can be achieved to where we utilize the aesthetic power of corals, and we can conserve them in captivity even if they're gone in the wild. To where they can still exist as a species, then there's that hopeful tomorrow. So yeah, that's my reptile thing.
There's two parts to that, though. I would have wished that we could learn better from what happened to the reptile hobby and not have our stuff go extinct in the wild before we decide to care about that. I would really like that to happen. And a quasi example of that is hellbenders, right?
Sure.
I want hellbenders. I want to breed hellbenders. I want to swim with hell. I want to kiss them. I want to look at them. I want to keep them really happy. I think hellbenders are the coolest animal on the planet. They're not. There are tons of them captive bred nowadays. No one can get them unless you're in public aquaria or science. And it's there are people who would pay a bunch of money for hellbenders and take really good care of them, but we can't get them. So we need to avoid that.
Wouldn't it be difficult to house one, sort of?
Dude, you keep saltwater animals in people's houses remotely.
You keep a bird in a hamper.
Yeah. Hellbender is fresh water and a chiller. You're good.
Where once there was dirty underwear, there is now a pigeon.
So that was I think that ties into my original argument for why we should grow the hobby. If we don't grow the hobby, if we don't continue imports, then what is
happening?
What's Remy doing?
Freedom strike. Oh,
no.
Poor man's patent. Poor man's patent.
Get it.
Oh, he's gonna buy it right now.
Remy, we're gonna
get it. You and I get it. I trust you.
Holy shit. Remy is about to cock block you on Freedom Frags.
Hey, Elaine said something about Electric Avenue, and that was Eddie Grant, and I used to love that song.
Rock Down too.
Electric Avenue. And Elaine, Hellbender is like the world's biggest salamander.
They're so cool.
It's not the biggest. The Chinese giant salamander is the biggest.
Oh,
I love those things too.
Hellbender's like 2 feet. Perfect.
Made in China.
Size. Perfect size. If you like anglerfish, you'll love hellbenders.
Yes. They're the same kind of wrinkly in a good way.
Yeah. Except they breathe through their wrinkles. So grow the
grandma.
The only place
not grow the hobby. Let me quote. Not grow the hobby. Continue imports. There's species we haven't mastered. What is Remy? There it is. There's a hellbender. They're wacky little guys.
A snot lizard or something like that.
I would get that, and I would name him Brett.
That's a good name.
Pidgey.
Like I'd name him Helly. Helly the Hellbender.
Yeah.
That's an excellent children's novel.
I'd keep him in a laundry basket. And then feed him hot dogs.
Excellent nutritional source.
Welcome to America.
I mean, he's bending hell.
He is Texas raised. He's from Houston.
Yeah. Let me show you something about Texas, Mr. Helly.
Burn ends and ribs is all he eats. Yeah. All he needs. I top off his tank with Coors.
Hey, you said Coors right. Well, you're from Kansas.
I'm from Kansas. I get it. City folk just don't get it. So
I'm with you. I don't mind growing the hobby. I think growing the hobby for the sake of growing the hobby is a poison drink.
Maybe not growing the hobby. Continuing the hobby to where we can bring in Dendronepthia and Sclerionepthia and master how to keep them so we can conserve them. That's my worry.
We can do that now.
We do that now, but it could stop.
And
before we master them.
Yeah. We could fund that's always the risk.
That's my worry. I want to be able to master them before imports shut down.
But now we are working on this. We have been working on it. We're getting better at NPS keeping. But what it generally is You know, I'm going to get the Diogorgia, you know, the yellow Gorgonian with the white polyps.
They're
I'm going to
beautiful.
get it because they're cheap, and I'm going to try it, and we'll see what happens. And that's how people are trying to keep them. There's no directed, you know, this is what I did and it worked, and this is what I did and it didn't work. It's always always, I'm going to give it a try and see what happens, you know?
My God, we need to have community science where we try everything in terms of keeping these species as well. It's not just our methods in terms of our overall care. It can be selective care of species that are difficult.
So
But
it's
remember-
interesting. I'm sorry. I'll remember my point. Go ahead, Ben.
No, I was just saying real quick. Remember Disticopora and Stylaster? Those are
Yeah.
And also that Christmas tree, that lumpy red thing with the white polyps.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Do you remember?
You
It's like
remember
that
feet?
light-
Remember
I know
feet?
someone keeping Stylaster successfully in Germany. Florian. He's Roper Reef Builders. It's crazy. He figured it out. He's growing them. Yeah,
right.
he's growing Stylaster.
Crazy.
Share the Tonmo.com, the Octopus News Magazine online. It was the Ceph site of Ceph sites for a long time. It still exists. That was where cephalopod people went to talk about how do we keep cephalopods alive. That's where I started with them, right? That's, you know, I got so much crap from scientists on that site when I got the first Wonder Puss I ever got. And then it took 9 months of me keeping it and showing them that I'm not just some asshole. And then I had great working relationships, professional relationships after that. But it was a smaller, focused community where we were all there to do this to do three things with this one group of animals. And this is why I think the big forums are terrible, because there's no focus. It's just kind of scattershot, and people aren't keeping Stylaster just to keep Stylaster. Most of the time, people are keeping Stylaster by throwing it in a mixed reef and hoping that whatever they're doing to feed it's going to help. Mark Levinson had some good success with Diogorgia, and he makes fun of me every few months about it, which I think is wonderful, because he got it and I was like, let's see it in 6 months. And then in 6 months, he's like, let's see it in 3 more months. And then let's see it in 3 more months. And now he's had it for a year and it's not doing the thing that it normally does. So what am I saying? I'm saying, boy, I'm liking the smaller communities than the giant communities. There's just no way to get anything done in a giant community. Too many people come and pee on things.
Maybe we have a forum that is more targeted, or platform, whatever the hell, right? Selective group that's involved, that's about it, and we say, here's what we're going to do. Who wants to do it?
Right. It's just a working group. Let's make
But
working
it's
groups.
siloed though, right?
We need a Slack.
Well, you
Something
want to
productive.
silo. You want to silo the working group so they can get their work done.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you want people to be able to look at it and talk about it, but you don't want to pee all over what they're doing. There's a balance there of
A lot of urine play here, Richard.
well, you know,
There is a lot of mention of piss this talk. You've mentioned it about 10 times, I would say. But
what
don't
fluid
even
would
get
you
him
like me to
started on-
reference from now on.
Don't
some
even get
type
him
of
started on German
Oedipal manifestation or something. I don't know.
Okay. The humors.
the humors. Jesus.
Like bloodletting humors?
Yeah,
Oh,
leeches. We
yeah.
need
Okay.
to get leeches involved. I want to keep a
Yes.
leech in a hamper.
The Marine, the MBI was great until it wasn't. It really was great because that was broken into sections, and people who were breeding whatever they were breeding worked on breeding that one thing and talked with each other. And people read what they were doing and said, oh, you were looking for a way to do X. Here's how we did X with these other animals. But it wasn't,
What are you talking
it
about
wasn't
doing
just
ecstasy
people
with animals?
I'm sorry. It wasn't just people bleeding all
That
over.
happened in the 60s in the Keys, and it went very badly.
I did ecstasy with a porpoise, and it was great.
Yeah. I think, Ben, I will say off track, I think I like that one the best out of all of your outfits so far. The chocolate covered strawberry is something special.
How do you know it's chocolate?
It's humors.
Oh my God! I
the
guess I
stop-
can't. I should have been more skeptical. You're right.
Jason.
I made an assumption and I assumed it to be correct. What a microcosm of the hobby we've just witnessed.
We go deep on reef beef.
Jesus.
Cheeses?
Jesus.
What kind of
Jesus.
cheeses?
Ben
Ben
Johnson.
is Reef Jesus, but now he's a strawberry.
He is. He
There
can be
it
both and not both at the same time.
Oh, he's got the draw on me.
My software updated. I have to turn that off.
Really?
Remy, how can we do that? Why does it never work for me?
You
have
have
a
to
Mac?
be reef beef.
You need a
No,
Mac.
I'm on my phone.
You have an Android.
You need a
Remy,
Mac.
Remy, you should stay on here.
Remy just comes in here with this sexy ass voice
He's got the voice. He has the voice.
and the
he's got no
microphone.
pants.
It's obnoxious too. He's got this phallic microphone,
Oh yeah, it's real long.
and it looks like a garden hose on it. Oh,
It's
Jesus.
That's
It's got some girth to it.
the RE320.
Oh,
Is that what they call it?
more about
Is that the
coming
nickname?
When you spend part of your life in broadcasts, you just kind of happen
That's
upon
true.
these things, right? So
that's true. I'm just an aquarium guy.
So, Remy, two things. First, if you need to leave and go to bed because of your family, please just stop us at any time. Because
I mean,
don't think,
there are two other people on this that may have lives as well, but
No.
I think they're about it. I've got a
No.
feeling they are.
Nothing is more important than whatever we're talking about is that chocolate.
Whatever the science is, the bacteria, the shark costume.
Plus, I have probably like 4 more costumes left.
on a
We've
scale
got to switch through them.
on a scale of Disney to Wolf of Wall Street. For cussing, you guys are at The Departed right now. Just letting you know.
That's fucking great.
Well, I think that's excellent.
So
Is there a breakdown? Are you keeping a list of who did it?
Richard, tell them about our award.
I just have a tally. I just have
I
a
think
tally.
I'm on the low end, but
I think
Yes.
I'm definitely top of the list.
For
Richard,
the people
tell
that
them about
are
the award that we won. For
which
Reef.
award? Oh, the #1 vulgar language Reef podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, I can
got
top
that award.
that.
We got that award from the Vulgar Reef Podcast Award givers.
Please
Yeah,
don't fail.
that's
us.
not-
Was that Ben Johnson and Rich Ross? Were they the owners of the community?
That was just me one night.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
But then somebody made the award for us. I'll find it. I've got it somewhere. It's pretty great.
For the people
we're not
asking,
on
yes,
that show.
I
We're
do
not-
have hair. I sometimes don't wear a hat, and I do.
Remy has a lot of hair. I've seen it in person. He's got luxurious locks. I have less hair than him. I've got a receding hairline. I'm like 23.
Don't
That's
you
what science will
even
do to you.
play. If we're doing the Reef Avengers, I've already requested so many times to be Thor.
You're
Okay.
Thor. You've got it.
Okay.
Kalamazoo tried to make me Peter Parker, and I said, I'm
Oh,
the
dude.
Hulk because it subverts expectations. It's really funny. I've got
I'm
the
Black
green
Widow.
on and everything.
Richard's
I'm
Black.
Black.
Widow.
I want to be Black Widow because I want to die soon.
I want to see. I want to see Richard in skin tight lycra.
Oh, you will.
Remy, what do you think of this conversation? You think we're heading in the right direction, or do you think we're all just a
Not
little
the
bit
last
crazy?
4 minutes. Sorry.
Yeah, we should divert. I was trying to off ramp. You're correct.
I'm sorry. Please off ramp. Too excited.
I think as a viewer of this with you guys, I'm with you. But as Richard and Ben have both kind of stated, it's a long, windy road, and it is interesting. I've never really thought of this whole not growing the hobby idea, but it makes a lot of sense now that we've talked about it. But then, Richard, in the beginning, where you have this thought of what are we actually doing here? You start to go down the ethics and the philosophy of everything, and I'm thinking about getting out of the hobby tonight. So if anybody is watching from Reef Builders Management, I'm out.
Reef Builders is ending tonight officially, everyone. Remy and I are throwing in the towel. Jeremy will be writing articles, and that is about it. Evie will be doing tank tours, and that's the content you'll get.
That's it.
Reef
That's it.
instructors.
Now,
more.
if you want to come back in, there are ways to make more ethical choices. It just makes your life a little harder.
Yeah.
I've killed a lot of coral in the lab.
Labs are, you're supposed to kill stuff in the lab.
Utilitarianism is the only way I sleep at night.
Also, for what it's worth, you did
Yeah.
accept dying frags and dead frags, so you didn't do
yeah.
it yourself necessarily.
But that's
Oh,
like
I've done a lot myself. I've
You
done
were
a
supposed to
lot
admit that.
myself.
I was letting you in, and you.
There's
did not.
no off ramp. The guilt is apparent. It's here.
Here's a
This is
tip.
now confession.
If you find tubing on your desk when you have aquariums and you think, oh, it'll be cool, I'll smoke it like a cigarette, don't.
Richard always has the best advice.
I've got 3 pairs of glasses on my desk, and I think that I might just have to do all this with them. Maybe one-handed. I'm holding my phone.
Mm-hmm.
This is pretty difficult.
Yep. Okay.
You think with the amount of time I've used pipettes, I'd be able to master the one-handed, dexterity, but I haven't.
Wait, who
I
are
haven't.
you? Who just went? Who sat at Remy's desk?
Where'd he
Who's
go?
that?
Oh, I
It's-
should have some
It's
camouflage.
Clark Remy.
Good day, mate.
Oh my God! It's the Vegemite consumer himself.
Good eye.
Good day, mate.
Did
So
you
who-
ever put Vegemite in your fish tank? In your
How
reef
how
tank?
you going? Yes.
That's
Yeah.
the next April Fool's article: the benefits of Vegemite dosing.
How you going? You ever eat Vegemite?
How you going?
Light.
Hello? Hot
Vegemite?
things?
I think that the one thing that I noted initially, I was sat next to an Australian woman on the plane. She was like 3 seats down from me. I didn't have a pen to fill out my customs thing, my customs form. And I go, hey, can I borrow a pen? And she goes, all right. Yeah. Got the pen out or whatever. And then I said, hey, thank you for this. And she goes, you're all right. Like I did something wrong. So they always say like, you're all right or you're okay. No, I know. I'm good. I just saying thank you. There's a lot of that slang stuff there in Australia and how they say things. So that was a fun cultural experience for me.
I'm glad you had that.
Yeah.
You know, there's
Oh,
something.
hang on. Just real quick before we go on, I did want to mention what we talked about at the Reef Builder Studio at Reef Stock.
Oh,
that
yeah.
little Fiji
Ooh.
thing.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I forgot about that glorious idea.
We
Flew
should go-
by on the way to Australia, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. just
Raj,
chop
where are
off-
you at with those dividends?
That's why we need to grow the hobby to fund that.
We can crowdfund it.
That's why I'm going to sell water from my tank. It's $40 an ounce,
Nice.
and you need to add it every day, an ounce every day, or your tank and all your animals will die.
Turn your water changes into money.
Ching.
If I came back with the highest percent diversity on aquabiomics, I could maybe do that.
Yeah, he does look like Chevy Chase.
God, I hope I'm not, I hope I'm
You
not
have some
that
Chevy Chase vibes. You do give me the,
I'm not a dick. Okay.
you're not a dick.
We didn't say you were like Chevy Chase. We said you looked like Chevy.
I don't
Is that a
think
good
that
thing?
Clark
Is that-
Griswold was a dick. I think that Clark Griswold was a family man who did what he could to provide. I think that's you, Remy.
Wait,
That's a
me.
fictional person, though.
He was an intelligent man who excelled well in what the fuck with jelly selling? What the fuck was the company he worked at? I don't remember what the hell it was.
Jelly of the month.
Yeah, the Jelly of the Month Club. Yes.
This is the stuff Snowman edits.
Yes.
Nope. This is
Brown
all in.
Jelly of the Month Club.
Brown Jelly of the Month Club. I love it.
That's a
I love
hashtag.
it.
When you
Oh
get
my
it, you
God.
post a picture on socials and you say hashtag Brown Jelly of the Month Club.
Hey, I bet.
Whoever has brown jelly right now, tag Reef Builders tomorrow, and we will make a hashtag Brown Jelly of the Month Club.
I love it.
I bet we can get serious again.
I bet you could convince people that only one kind of brown jelly can live in a tank at a time. So if you have brown jelly and you know somebody else who has brown jelly, you should inoculate the tanks so it will kill the brown jelly in the other tank. Because there can be only
All
one.
of
brown
Salem's
jelly.
research right there. It's all
Yep.
done.
You may be onto something, and I wish you'd stop talking about it.
3 glasses coming off at once.
I love how you all like D costumed, and I'm still here with a squirrel hand on my nose.
I'm still wearing the damn Howie coat, and it's hotter than heck.
You know,
I've got this cut off with no biceps, man. I'm living the life. I've embraced it.
the biggest question I get after people watch Reef Beef is, people let you in their house?
Yeah,
Kalamazoo asks, what else is Snowman hiding from us?
A lot.
I think the best parts go into the bloopers.
Yep.
And also weird sex stuff that nobody needs to know about.
Okay.
Just between you and you.
Listen, who is Remy in the Reef Avengers? I think he has a part to play in this.
Hawkeye?
Oh,
He's like the rebel.
he is always on target.
He's Jarvis.
He's Jarvis. He's the butler.
You are the machine learning. Yes, you are the AI.
You are Vision.
He's
Vision. Yes, he has the vision of the future.
I'll take Vision. I'll take Vision.
Well, you want to be
Yes.
a weird robot dude that,
Yeah.
oh, well, then you can
Dude,
be
he has the fucking Mind Stone. He's so enlightened. He's weird as hell, but goddamn, he's with it.
I want to be Thanos.
The ultimate utilitarian.
Yeah, because Thanos was right. I mean, we all agree, right?
On paper, Thanos was really right, man.
He's just.
I'm going to go
jackass,
deep
but-
because I used to collect Avengers comics. I want to be Star Fox. I want to be an intergalactic playboy.
I want to be the original version of Adam Warlock that was actually cool. Not the bullshit MCU version who does nothing.
Yeah, I understand.
Not to, be the guy that maybe says that this thing has derailed completely.
That's okay.
We're all
but,
thinking it.
But do you think maybe we could do it like a part 2 at some point?
Yeah, we should probably off ramp, huh?
We can do it right now. Ready? Chapter 2.
All right, let's all don the new costume. Did Ben leave?
No, I have the power to remove him from the show.
I thought he just left. I was like,
No,
Jesus,
Remy was like, gone.
you shall be banished. Well,
Wait,
okay,
that's
so
who Remy is then. He's the Beyonder from Secret Wars.
oh
He's-
my God, he is. He's the one that's controlling us all. He can manipulate reality. He's like Franklin Richards, but more.
At least Molecule Man.
Molecule Man was overpowered, man.
But
Such
he
a,
didn't want to use his powers.
and that's what Remy is. He doesn't want to wield it unethically. He
I
is
thought
Molecule Man.
I thought the whole Avenger things was kind of like just a metaphor. So
It was, but now it's a very serious. I think Molecule Man is Remy in this instance. In this scenario, it applies so contextually.
Does he have
I wanna be
six-pack
Deadpool.
abs? Molecule Man. I don't know this.
I
one.
think Reefing Roundtable sounds cooler than Aquarium Avengers, and we also probably will not get sued.
that
Right.
is why I say Reefing Roundtable.
But that
Yeah.
sort of pisses me off. Why does it have to be a round table? It can't be like a dodecahedron or a
Yeah, like a fucking Reefing Rhombus. Yeah, that sounds cool.
reefing.
Ben?
That's it.
How many sides does a dodecahedron have? That's why it can't be a dodecahedron.
Wait, isn't that like a 20-sided dice?
I'm not answering the question for you.
So, Remy, you're gonna hate to hear this, but I was recently. I don't know if I can reveal this. I'm gonna do it anyways. I was on the Reef Beef podcast. It's not published yet, which is how I got these yahoos on here. I said at the end, I'm like, well, you need to come on Beef Recap, and then we did it, and we're doing it right now for 2 hours and 19 minutes and 9 seconds. But we initially said let's go for 8 hours. So we won't do that tonight because Remy has a family and loved ones. But like, who wants to see us all just do this for 8 hours?
An 8 hour, but we'll talk. We won't get us distracted about Avengers.
Yeah, we really went into Marvel Comics. So yeah, we really did.
You'll actually need several chapters.
I'll have to buy more costumes.
Yeah, I need to get probably 4 more pairs of glasses and at least 2 more cutoffs.
I need to get more face tattoos. That's just on my to-do list.
To kill a man first so you can get the tier.
Oh, there you go.
How do you? You don't.
Rich
you
is
have
no.
idea how many tiers I can
Rich
have right
has already killed the man he once was because he now has hope in the industry.
But he gets
Do
flesh colored tattoo tiers. So you can't see.
We do have to have hope. I'll try
Blacklight
off-ramp.
revealing tattoos?
Yeah.
We have to have hope in the future because everything else sucks.
Yes.
You know,
Yep.
and hope springs eternal, which is why it's essentially worthless and easy to have.
I think all of you should listen to the Swedish underground rap collective Drain Gang, as well as Playboy Cardi. Now that we mentioned vamping,
Yeah, I listen to
gonna-
mostly Dust Sound Machine nowadays.
Am I gonna regret it if I Google Playboy Cardi?
no, you'll be enlightened probably.
Okay. Is that
Just-
like a female rapper?
Nope, it's a male rapper, and it's something different. Just look up vamping Playboy Cardi Urban Dictionary, and I think you'll get it all.
You're thinking of
Kalamazoo.
Cardi B.
Kalamazoo
thinking of
says
Cardi
we
B.
won't be able to do 8 hours.
We can do 8 hours.
It's
You know
on.
what I got on my
I think-
side?
Guys, if you're going to do a marathon live stream of sorts, then there has to be some sort of fundraising for your experiments.
Yeah,
and
Look,
or-
yes, that's how we will get the crowdfunding. Let's do
Whatever,
8 hours, and it'll fund reefing science. And then on the stream, we'll talk about what we want to do. This is the first roundtable discussion. We'll have the whole roundtable on. We'll say, here's the 10 things we want to formulate. We'll formulate them, and all the money we raise goes towards the budget to do it.
Wait.
Yes,
A
except
little
the
bit of the
roundtable-
money. Go.
I'm sorry.
Rick.
The round table has to be flexible. It cannot be fixed.
Yes, it must be fluid.
And
Okay.
a little bit of the money I'm gonna siphon off so I can buy that pigeon a better cage.
yes,
That's justifiable. That will be baked in.
give him some millet.
Yeah.
Because you are ethically responsible for that pigeon now.
Get him
You
the
have to
glass
let it
box
go.
so you can begin to care.
Well,
You
now
gotta-
it's fucked. Like I can't just like we already took possession of him. I can't like, oh, sorry about that hamper incident. I'm gonna just put you back out there with your bruised coccyx, whatever's wrong with him.
Dude, he just got
Oh,
abducted by aliens. Think about his perception of this event.
I'm sure that's a question for the people on the chat. Does a what the hell is that? A pigeon? Does it have a coccyx?
It's a cloaca.
Are
Well,
flies confused when they get on a plane and land somewhere else?
Yeah. Wait, is that?
Or are they too stupid?
Hey, Remy, I'm gonna send you a link, and you should drop it in the chat for the whole Gen Z reference that most people probably don't understand.
Is that appropriate?
I don't know. I haven't read it yet, so you should probably proofread it.
Somebody gave you money for a comment. You should put it up.
Yeah.
Oh,
Starting
someone gave us
all
money. Remy, do your. What the hell happened?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yes,
$1.99.
$1.99 for the 8-hour marathon we have begun.
Look,
We're
and
gonna-
that's what this is.
We're gonna go
what that's
back
worth is
and we're gonna
this.
do this this other question that was asked by Luis, who paid $4.99 for a question you guys
$4.99
didn't
right there.
Well,
answer.
thank you, Luis. That's awesome. $4.99.
Many more issues of losing more fish.
No, I love that no one reads it out loud.
Sorry. For some reason, fish that are coming in this past year have had many more issues than before, losing more fish in QT than ever before collection methods.
Yes, cyanide is still used, but we don't know about it. I'll just answer that question real quick. It's in the shadows again. We're really not sure what's going on with it. But that's a different question. That just popped up there. For Luis. My first question is, I want to be sure that that's really true, and that's not. In my day, it was better. I remember lots of animals coming in dead and dying, and fish coming in way sick. So I want to be sure that it is actually the case that they are coming in worseness. Now I can shut the hell up and we can restart that again and just answer the question. But somebody else will have to answer it, not me.
I don't have enough experiential knowledge to answer if that is the case or not, to be honest. I don't want to bite the bullet and tell you something I don't know.
I know that I'm also in the same boat as him, as I've got like 6 fish in this 625 behind me, and I'm kind of like the hierarchy
poor guy.
there. Like they're good, they're all getting along. I don't know that I want to add more fish just for the sake of adding more fish, you know?
I've got a pair of clowns, 2 chromas, and a moray eel I ordered when I was at Petco. And I got an anglerfish because he's cool. I would say ask Bobby Miller.
Yeah, he might have more of a feeling about it if it's actually true or not.
Yeah, humble fish. Ask Bobby Miller. He's the fish guy that I know of, at least.
Yeah, I do just know that kind of statement often turns out to be perception and not reality. Because I can remember when I got back into reefing in the 2000s, my memory of my first tank at that time was bomber because I used ESV Bionic.
Oh.
Now, now with more experience, I don't think it was any more bomber than any other tank that I've done. So, you know, your memory does weird shit to you.
Cal Flosser.
I remember when ESV Bionic first came out, and I remember when it had the bright green label.
I remember when people used to keep pigeons in hampers.
It's my favorite story.
Remember when we saw that movie about the people in the desert? Remember that? That was cool.
Yeah,
right?
they kept people in hampers in the desert.
Yeah, do you remember
That was where we took our picture. You guys were going to Dune, and we were on the couch, and I had the giant water bottle gravity bong thing, and that's when it happened. I remember.
Yep. That's when you became our love child.
Yes.
Hey, Remy,
It's happened. I think we've come full circle.
I think you
Remy?
tried to tee us up to get out of here. Why don't you try it again?
Listen, I'm at 2% on my phone. I'm charging my phone.
The real reason here is because of the
Yes.
battery.
Look at this. I've got an extension cord. It's plugged in. My phone, my Android is trying its goddamn hardest, but I'm losing power. I don't want to end this thing, but I probably need to end this. We gotta land the plane, man.
I got something that might help us start our approach. We talked about a lot of negative-y kind of things, like a negative feeling things. This hobby, no matter what, should be fun for you. If it is not fun for you, get out of this hobby and find something that is fun for you. Because if you're just going to be tearing your hair out about what bad you're doing to the world, that's not a good hobby.
And that is an excellent place to end, I think.
Yeah. We want to talk about the real issues, but this is supposed to be a good time. Not this show. This is a waste. But the hobby is supposed to be a good time.
Okay, I'm at 1%. I might go out any second.
Land it right
I
in the
want to
water.
land the plane.
Right in
Thank you for coming to the first episode of Beef Recap. I think we will have Remy on the entire time next time because that was fun. So Remy will also be on next time. We'll be fundraising. We'll probably have like Michael Paletta and Sanjay on here too. There's gonna be like 20 people on here. It'll look like, you know, the whatever the hell that show is called, the Brady Bunch intro. And we're gonna ask for money, but it's gonna be for a good cause. And thanks for tuning in.